he reminds me more of a tennis ball bouncing around in the ring, but he doesn't really have any real effective moves. One is his big kick. People actually believe that Shawn Michaels is the best wrestler in the whole World Wrestling Federation. Like, he's the top one, better than I am. And that just drives me nuts.
The man who wins the most decisions will be declared the winner and the World Wrestling Federation champion. Good luck to both of you.
The 60-minute time limit has expired. However, this match has been ordered to continue under sudden death rules.
Trying to put on the brakes, he did. Michaels, he got it. Shawn Michaels got it. He got it. I'm not too sure if he got all of it. Whoa! But Michaels, he didn't get all of it. Michaels totally fatigued. Michaels can't cover him. But he got enough. Michaels out of nowhere. Michaels out of nowhere.
He hit him with the super kick, but you'll never in your life see one of Shawn Michaels' opponents get hit with a super kick and then beat Shawn Michaels to his feet. Impossible. But we may see it here. We did. No.
It's not over.
No, he's not up yet.
It's not over. This capacity crowd buzzing. They've never seen anything quite like this. Wait a minute. Michaels said he got it. He got all of it. Michaels got all of it. Michaels in a cover. 5, 2, down.
Hello, my name is Bob Bamber and welcome to the Wrestling 20 Years Ago podcast. We're going back in the time machine to March of 1996 for Volume 1 of this month's show. Volume 2 is your WCW show looking at Uncensored. Volume 3, ECW, looking at Big Ass Extreme Bash. And being joined here for Volume 1 for looking at Wrestlemania by Del Muir. Del, good evening.
Hi, Bob.
And Wayne Lythgoe.
Hi there, Bob.
Wayne, kicks off with the news.
Shawn Michaels is the new WWF champion, defeating Bret Hart in sudden death of a 60-minute WrestleMania 12 main event. After no falls inside the allotted hour, Bret walked off with the championship, believing he'd returned the scoreline at 0-0. Gorilla Monsoon restarted the match. Shawn hit a pair of super kicks and picked up his first WWF championship.
And following WrestleMania, it's expected Bret Hart will be taking an extended period of time off for the WWF, following a house show tour in Germany. As he did at the end of 1994, as you'll remember listening to the show, Bret will be off pursuing another acting career. But there are reports that he may be unhappy with his current role in the company. Currently it's said that Bret isn't happy at being used as a transitional champion, nor at the likes of Diesel and Shawn getting the spotlight. It's said that he isn't the only unhappy camper in WWF, with the more tenured wrestlers concerned that they perceive special treatment for the likes of Vader and the returning Ultimate Warrior.
Diesel formally handed in his notice at the beginning of March, saying in a phone-in call to Vince McMahon he would be joining WCW. The contract he accepted is a 3-year deal believed to be worth somewhere between $450,000 and $750,000 per year. Unlike Razor Ramon, who is still suspended, Diesel returned from an injury early in the month, formally turning heel and losing to Undertaker at WrestleMania. There is no formal confirmation that Scott Hall will be joining him in WCW, but he is still expected to, having handed his notice in last month.
And elsewhere in the WrestleMania card, Body Donnas defeated the Godwins. That was to win the tag team titles in the free-for-all pre-show. The geriatric match between the Huckster and the Nacho Man that also aired in the pre-show ended with both competitors and special referee Billionaire Ted passing out. On the main card, there were wins for the team of Vader, Owen Hart and the British Bulldog, and the Ultimate Warrior, and the newly coined quote-unquote Stone Cold Steve Austin. The backlot brawl between Roddy Piper and Goldust, which appeared in 2 halves, sandwiching in a almost familiar car chase, ended in a no contest, and that was with Piper on top.
And we move on to the ratings for the month. Nitro didn't air on March the 4th. Raw did a 3.6 rating, unopposed, with both Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart in action. On March the 11th, Nitro, headlined by Hogan, Savage and the Booty Man against Ric Flair, Arn Anderson and the Taskmaster, did a 3.2 to Raw's 2.9, with Undertaker and Yokozuna against Owen Hart and the British Bulldog. On March the 18th, we saw a big win for Monday Nitro, 3.6 to Raw's 2.9. Nitro was headlined by Hogan and Savage against Flair and Taskmaster. Raw had Bret against Tatanka. Nitro, coming off uncensored, won the final week, also with a 3.1, headlined by Flair and the Giant for the title, against Raw before WrestleMania, scoring a 2.8. And in terms of the average score since September, Nitro averages a 2.7 to Raw's 2.6.
Action. I am big. It's the pictures that got small. Sunset Boulevard, 1950. Oh, but you were always big, Mr. President Piper, weren't you? At one time, you were literally huge. As a matter of fact, some of my earliest teenage fantasies derived right from this very pit. Watching you from the hills, I hung on your every word as each syllable spilled from your luscious lips. I sunk deeper and deeper into my own sea of ecstasy when you exploded that coconut over the head of one superfly. Oh, I myself erupted with pleasure like a rock-hard mountain of lust. And that skirt. Oh, yes, we mustn't forget that skirt. I spent many hours of quality time alone just contemplating Grapes of Wrath. But President Piper, things are different now, aren't they? You have moved into a new set. And that set is one Hollywood. But you forget. That's my set. Though I've seen you in some of those films. I even got quite the rise out of They Live. Yes, you have done quite well for yourself, Mr. President Piper. As a matter of fact, you may even one day go down as an all-time Hollywood great. Maybe a great, but not the greatest. That title only belongs to one Gold Dust. So sit back, President Piper, and like the gentleman that you are, accept what is, simply as what is. That being your role as a World Wrestling Federation president, and merely my lowly extra when it comes to Tinseltown. Oh, by the way, maybe, just maybe, if you're a good little boy, I'll even treat you to a little something extra.
Extreme, please.
Oh, yeah. You remember the name, and you will never forget. Gold Dust.
We start Raw on March the 4th with a match between Shawn Michaels and the 1-2-3 Kid. Nitro is preempted tonight, so Raw has the floor. We get a picture-in-picture of Bret Hart watching from backstage. He politely praises Shawn's ability, but says he's getting away with some stuff against the Kid that he wouldn't allow him to do to him. Bret says he doesn't have any animosity towards Shawn, he considers him a friend, and fighting him is, quote, just part of the job. They're still talking about Michaels as a concussion like it's a selling point and not a sign of how they treat their own talent. It's a nice match that ends with Shawn super kicking Kid for the win. We get a promo from Goldust on the set of Piper's Pit. He's now feuding with Piper following the suspension of Razor Ramon. This is creepy Goldust. He compliments his kilt and his acting ability. He may be great, but he isn't the greatest. That title belongs to Goldust. Another video package documenting the Ultimate Warrior's rise and the announcement that he will be returning at WrestleMania. We cut to commercial with someone asking, "Where's the Huckster?" We see the Huckster with his hands draped over the top turnbuckle saying, "Somebody help me, brother." This is a parody, of course, of what happened on Nitro last month. Roddy Piper phones in during a match between Justin Hawk Bradshaw and Hakushi. He calls Goldust a great athlete, but he's making a mistake if he wants to play mind games with Roddy Piper. Bradshaw wins it with a clothesline. After the match, Uncle Zebekiah brands Hakushi with JHB initials. We get another Mankind promo. He says no one will have a nice day. You can buy a WrestleMania 12 padded steel chair for $79.95 plus shipping and handling. The main event sees Bret Hart facing off against Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Shawn Michaels walks out being matched with a chair, but he uses it to sit on to get a ringside view. The animosity builds with Bret wanting to know why Shawn was out there. Bret eventually wins with a sharpshooter. Shawn immediately walks to the back after the match, but not before giving Hart a standing ovation by the video wall. We start the latest Billionaire Ted segment with a message. The following satire is intended to entertain and inform. The quotes contained herein are actual quotes by the man who could control 50% of America's cable systems, Ted Turner. We join Ted and Candy on a TV trivia quiz show. The round is pompous quotes pertaining to race and sexism. The presenter asks Nacho Man where the Huckster is. We cut to him, who said he's tied himself up and now he can't get himself free. Segment ends with Turner saying, "If you think I'm powerful now, wait until I get my hands on Time Warner." March the 11th brings us Savio Vega against the Ringmaster, or, to give him his new moniker, Stone Cold Steve Austin. We see Olympic weightlifter Mark Henry sat in the crowd. The match ends in a count-out, but the battle continues after the bell. The referee ends up pulling Austin off via his trunks. Austin does a backward roll, returns towards Vega and eats a big boot. They continue to brawl. Vega hits a wheel kick and sends Austin to the outside. We see footage of Mark Henry press slamming Jerry Lawler from earlier in the evening. You can buy one of 3,000 limited edition WrestleMania 12 denim jackets. These look hideous and come in at a hefty $68.95 plus shipping. Roddy Piper calls Goldust a transvestite during an in-ring promo. Piper says he's made 17 movies and he never saw Goldust in anything. Piper says, "You know what you are, me, I'm a lesbian." Piper references Adrian Adonis and Freddy Krueger. Goldust gets a bit weird. He starts stroking Piper, which clearly rattles him. He tries to get a view at Piper's kilt, who resists. They exchange slaps. Piper says if he wants a fight, then that's what he's going to get. And you know what? I'm going to make a man out of you. We join Shawn Michaels in Texas. He introduces us to Jose Lothario. We see a training montage, including some punch bag work, a rope ladder and some weights. We then move to Calgary, Alberta. Bret says wrestling upbringing was focused on a much tougher style than Shawn's. Bret calls Shawn a tennis ball. He doesn't have any big moves apart from this big kick. The one thing that will ring through in this whole match, Shawn Michaels is good, but he is not the best. We join Scheme Gene in the Geriatric Control Center. The Huckster versus the Nacho Man will be on the WrestleMania free-for-all. Even he can't figure out a way to make a buck on this one. He gets a breaking news memo. The match will have no handcuffs or ladies' shoes allowed at ringside. We cut to a training video of the Huckster. He does some squats, but his bones give out. He then pulls off 2 awful sit-ups, gets wiped out by a medicine ball, and needs some oxygen before walking out of the gym on a walking frame. Meanwhile, Nacho Man is getting his bald spot sprayed in. You can call the hotline on 1-900-LYING-BADLY to find out whether there will be a nightfall this evening. Of all the Billionaire Ted stuff they've done, this was by some distance the best one. We end with Yokozuna and The Undertaker against the British Bulldog and Owen Hart. Diesel is watching this match backstage on TV. Well, at least he was until he walked out early on. Diesel clotheslines Paul Bearer and lays in some punches. There's a great visual with Undertaker tending to Bearer on the ground, shot from by the video wall. Bearer giving an animated gesture indicating Undertaker should go after him. Vader comes out and flattens Yokozuna, which causes a DQ in the main event. Ahmed Johnson isn't far behind to lay waste to Owen and Bulldog. Johnson hits a flying clothesline on Vader, taking him down. Jake Roberts comes out to even up the numbers, and we have a 6-person brawl. Yokozuna gets to his feet and starts exchanging punches with Vader, which whips up the crowd. The ring ends full of WWF officials trying to quell the action. In the end, the heels just scarper. Right, I've had about half of this TV review so far. We're going to go back live to the show and discuss some of the things that happen along some of the things that happen from the rest of the month, and then we'll come back and we'll cover the rest of the TV before WrestleMania.
Everything is big in Texas, and that includes the dreams and aspirations of a favorite son, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
It's my state, it's my town, and it's my dream. WrestleMania and a World Wrestling Federation Championship. And now I'd like you to meet my friend and my mentor, Superstock Jose Lothario.
Muchas gracias, Shawn. Un cordial saludo a todos los fanáticos de la lucha libre. Un chamaco que he logrado conquistar, que va a luchar por el campeonato mundial. Welcome home, my friend.
Thank you very much. At 19 years old, this man told me that he could make my dream a reality if I just listened to everything that he had to say. Well, 11 years later, Jose Lothario and the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels are on the threshold of WrestleMania and the World Wrestling Federation Championship. It's going to happen, and this is where it all began.
You're going to do it, my friend.
Shawn has practiced the methods of his legendary mentor for over 11 years, and now he finds himself on the threshold of his lifelong dream.
That's what I have to tell her. 11 years have gone by. Now, I know at 19, you had to say, you can do it, you know, you can be the World Wrestling Federation champion. But did you really think I could?
Of course. Let me tell you the reason I did it, because, you know, when I saw the enthusiasm that you really had, and I put you to a real heavy training, hoping for you to give up, but you never did. And that's what I said, this is going to make it.
I can't give up, I have to. I mean, you know how important.
I don't want you to give up.
Well, I'm not going to.
Remember, you got a dream. That dream is going to come true, my friend.
And he never ever will be the best.
And we come back in after what is essentially the first half of the TV review. If you are here for WrestleMania, you probably might want to catch, if you do want to catch the end of the second half of the TV report, that will come at the end of this segment. I will mark in the podcast notes, where the WrestleMania review starts, and it won't be yet because it happens at the very end of March. We are going to discuss a few things that happened on TV in the lead up to the pay-per-view. Del, first of all, let's talk about these Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels trading packages and how you felt the overall build from those two went.
It's something you get more commonly in the boxing world, I would say, Bob. There was a standout pay-per-view last year, the name of which escapes me, for WCW, for they interspersed quite a lot of video packages. I think it might even have been last year's Uncensored. But it does help give a big fight feel. Especially when it's not just happening on the night for kind of 3 or 4 minutes with a nice wee song playing over the background when you're building it up during the full month. We obviously had the segment last month when it was announced. The fact that they followed up on it, I would say, wouldn't show a fear of WCW, but I think it shows a sense of kind of commitment to competing with WCW. The fact that they're following up in segments, they're building up matches, they're leading into pay-per-views with strong bits like this, and it just gives you a bit of an overall kind of look at the two fighters as well, and it kind of catches the eye of a casual fan. I think overall they've done a brilliant job with it.
Why?
Yeah, I'll agree with Del on this one. It's giving it the big match feel. It wasn't just this. I thought that, the start of the match, everything about it was obviously big match, main event material. Going back to the roots, obviously Bret Hart, we all know he's, from training with his dad in the dungeon and everything like that. And it was nice to show a different side of Shawn and, the Mexican, not upbringing, but obviously the coaching he was having with, Lothario. And, it was, and can't really knock it. It was good for what it was, and building everything up, and it just put a different spin on things to what you're usually used to with WWF. And maybe we're seeing a new side to them. We're coming into a new era with Shawn Michaels, and maybe this is the route that we're going to be going with the main events.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought they got some of the way there, but I kind of don't think they went far enough. I kind of found it. The divergence quite interesting, and that clearly they went off and with separate camera crews. One went with Bret to kind of follow him training. One went with Shawn. And I don't know what they were telling them beforehand, but it's very clear that Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart have a very different impression of what building a matchup looks like. I mean, maybe it plays into Shawn's kind of demeanour as this quite arrogant, cocky character, both in the ring and outside of it. But the tape they got back from Shawn was very much focused on Shawn Michaels. It was focused on Jose Lothario. It was focused on Shawn Michaels' dreams and his training and how hard he's working, etc., etc. And they got the tape back from Bret, and it was Bret talking about Shawn. And there's nothing necessarily inherently wrong with either approach. It just didn't marry up very well side by side. It was odd in the sense that I felt like Bret was building up a match, and I felt like Shawn was building up Shawn Michaels. And again, if it had been all about Bret, and it was somewhat about Bret, but it was Bret also taking shots, I think it would have worked. It could also would have worked, but I think Shawn would have been better off making some more points about Bret. But I guess Bret as the kind of half de facto heel, or the guy kind of taking on that responsibility, it makes more sense, whereas Shawn as the more babyface type character, it maybe wouldn't have made so much sense taking shots at him. But Wayne, while I have praise for what they did in those video packages, I don't know that the mess they produced live on Raw was all that strong. Maybe mess is too strong a word, Wayne, what do you think?
The standoff in the ring. Just remind me again, sorry.
In terms of, we haven't covered it yet in the TV report, you'll hear this after we discuss this. But say the angle with Shawn Michaels against Leif Cassidy, that match, I think on the 25th, I don't know if you caught that, Wayne, but that kind of angle.
I did, sorry, where, obviously Shawn come down to the ring and obviously Bret was on commentary.
Shawn was in the match against Leif Cassidy, and then Bret kind of confronted Marty Jannetty at ringside, and then Shawn won the match, and then Bret and Shawn kind of got into a verbal argument at ringside. It all felt a bit flimsy.
Yeah, no, I did. Sorry, I was getting mixed up with when Shawn come down during the Hunter and Bret match, and it was sat at the ringside.
I'll talk about that as well if you like, but just everything that we got kind of in the arena on Raw this month.
Yeah, no, it was, like you said, it probably was a mess in that sense. It was obviously Shawn coming down, and when he was sat at the ringside, all that felt a bit awkward. He was just, sat there watching him, and nothing was really going on. And like you said, obviously, right at the end of the match with Leif Cassidy, it was just all seemed a bit, false and just, like I said, a bit more awkward than anything.
Bill?
I think kind of tying in with what the two of yous are saying, it kind of shows the benefit of editing. A big concern for me this month, it's actually something we'll come to talk to after the second half of the news that you're going to take us through, Bob, the stuff with the Billionaire Ted kind of almost blow off with the match in the pre-show, where there was big concerns about that, how that would play out in front of a live crowd. They had the sense to edit that and pre-tape it. With the Shawn and Bret video packages, they've done that brilliantly, but it's the risk that you take when you get the guys out there, especially when you're putting it in the kind of mixed atmosphere of having matches, that you've already got a match on going, then you've to get the crowd to focus on Bret coming out to see the Shawn match, Shawn coming out to see the Bret match. You've then got the atmosphere of kind of not knowing what Shawn's doing. You've then got Bret on colour. It's kind of putting a lot of variables into the one kind of basket that it doesn't quite come off as well as it would have if it was more edited. But then at the same time, you want to build this up in front of the live crowd, gives you a sense of how the audience is taking to these two guys. I thought they'd done pretty decent, but as you say, there certainly was some gaps in it.
It's weird in the sense that they've got it right before. You go back to November of last year, they had that really, really good sit down with Bret and Diesel in different studios near the split screen. I remember praising them a lot for that, in the sense that it was largely respectful and they built them both as baby faces, but it was very easy to pick sides because they were both coming from such different directions. That 8-minute segment probably did more than anything they did with Bret and Shawn this month. I know there were, Bret was, he got some of the way there. I mean, I don't know that enough WWF fans are conditioned to think Shawn Michaels wrestles a Mexican style to the point where Bret Hart saying the Mexican style is a bit flashy is going to get over with anyone. I don't know that Bret calling Shawn a tennis ball, which, while I actually will give him credit, is quite a good metaphor, I don't know whether that kind of thing works either. I don't know whether people look at Shawn Michaels' tennis ball qualities and see it as a strength rather than a weakness. We were discussing this last month, and I think we got to the end of that segment in the ring on Raw with Piper and with Vince and with Shawn and Bret and said, okay, good start, but let's build the animosity over the course of the month. I don't think they did that. I'd say if I was going to score it out of 10, I'd probably give it a 6. Probably more towards Bret, and I wonder whether that's Bret's experience and also Bret's character, knowing that he had to build up Shawn to a point whereas Shawn didn't think so much to build up Bret. They did a good job. I don't think they did a great job.
What exactly is your major malfunction, you fruitcake?
Whoa.
You come out here in something that looks like somebody shot the curtains at the Days Inn. You're making yourself some Phyllis Diller haircut you got on here. No. Coming out, painting up your face like you're looking like some kind of great transvestite. I'll tell you something. You must be real proud of yourself, huh? I saw your movie. I saw all this stuff you've been talking about in Hollywood. You know something? I made 17 movies. I ain't never seen you by the catering truck. Nothing. One time maybe in a dark alley. How many quarters did you make? How proud of yourself can you be for that? You know what you're doing? You know what you're doing, Cream Puff? You're embarrassing me. You're coming to the WWF, and what you're trying to do is get attention. That's all you're trying to do. Don't let this guy fool you for a second. Don't let him fool you for a second. Mindless? Oh, mindless, I'll tell you. Yeah, mind games. I'm the one who dealt with Adrian Adonis. I beat him half to death with a baseball bat.
Whoa.
Okay? These mind games that you are playing are not fooling me for 1 second. Because you know what? Only a great athlete could win the Intercontinental title. Only somebody that trained hard. And you think for once that, hey, let's get our sexuality right. You are what you are. Me, I'm a lesbian, okay?
I don't think anyone's sexual proclivity has anything at all to do with this.
Hang on. Whoa. You know what you're missing, mister? And you know what ticks me off the most about you? I saw you blow on the bagpipes. Hey, I don't have to worry about that. You'll never have that kind of talent. So that doesn't bother me. You know what really bothers me, though, is the pride that you don't have. Look around you, man. Look at, those are kids down there. Those are adults up there. The Intercontinental is a very prestigious position. Something you should be proud of, but no. You gotta make this big mockery come up against me so you can get yourself a little higher in the ratings, right? Are we playing mind games? Let me tell you something. You're messing with the wrong guy. You know what? Not even Freddy Krueger comes into my nightmares.
Let's deal in what we know, not in what we don't. Patriot Games, 1992.
Yeah, good movie.
You see President Piper
I want a piece of you real bad, baby. And I know that you want a piece of me. Yeah. So quit pretending. Woo. I know all those Hollywood films that you've been in.
Uh-oh.
But see, you've strayed just a bit from reality. And I'm here to bring you down.
Oh.
Back down to earth. So President Piper, please come, if you will, to my back lot. Because that's where I do my best work, and I know that you can do some of yours here too, big boy.
Look at Barlena.
Whoop. You are so hot. And you know what? Let's say, in the meantime, let's just have a little sneak preview.
Hey, hey!
No more. No more.
All right, I think we've had enough of.
This is too much. Whoa! Come on, Piper!
Thank you, Jim. No. I've had him.
Whoa! Whoa! Here we go! I told you!
You want a backlot fight? You want to fight, you jerk? Then I'll fight you, God. And you know what? I'm going to make a man out of you.
Let's move on to discuss Roddy Piper and Goldust. Wayne, I think we'll hone in specifically on the in-ring segment. I think it was on the second show of the month, with Piper in the ring and Goldust trying to peer up Piper's kilt. I thought Piper here was right on the money.
Yeah, I think he's, the perfect replacement for Razor Ramon in this feud. And he's the one that's really sold it for me. Obviously, we know what he's like on the stick, and he's the one that's really pushed this fight forward. And like I said, I think these two are probably a perfect match for him, because for all the creepiness that Goldust is, Roddy Piper will just call him out on it. And obviously the segment with where obviously they're in the ring and the kilt and everything like that, just played well in this small mini feud that we've picked up on.
Yeah, I would agree in the sense that the angle surrounding Goldust and Razor Ramon was Goldust fancies Razor Ramon. The angle that they ended up with Goldust and Piper was that Piper didn't think Goldust was a very good actor. It kind of made a lot more sense given that Piper's done a fair few movies down the years. And that kind of played into it. And I think, I don't know, there were stories that Razor wasn't especially all that enamoured by the storyline. Maybe Piper embraced it a bit more, but I think all the credit in the world to Piper for, in the space of 2-3 weeks, being able to take a program that didn't really exist and turn it into something that people wanted to see. Dale, what did you think?
I pretty much agree, actually. The last time, is certainly that I remember seeing Roddy Piper in the build-up to a feud was the kind of crowning of the new generation when it was him against Jerry Lawler, and Piper was just kind of phoning it in. There was pre-tapes, there was almost as if it was handheld camera shots that he was selling that on. This, he's been all in on it. Obviously they've kind of had the storyline with Vader and Gorilla where Piper's come in, he's a temporary president. I think whether that's gave him the onus to actually put a bit more effort in, or if it's working with a younger guy like a Dustin Rhodes or a Goldust, it's kind of gave him the onus to kind of step it up a bit. But I think as much praise as there is for Piper, he's obviously one of the kind of future stamped Hall of Famers without doubt. He's been equally matched, in my opinion, with Goldust. I think Goldust has done amazingly well as well. I think if you're looking for a buy into a gimmick from a talent, you're going to have to look back to 1990 with The Undertaker. I don't think there's anybody else that's been almost saddled with a gimmick that's just made as much out of it, and as much as he's maybe put on a bit of weight, as much as there's a bit of a controversial feel to the character. I thought when he was coming in, he was going to be a bit more like kind of Larry Poffo, just kind of playing up to being camp. He's kind of went almost more old school with it. Piper mentioned Adrian Adonis. I'd say he's more like Adrian Street, the way that he's pulling off this character, and Piper was just the perfect antagonist to that, where it's, I'm not buying into this bullshit. I'm here. I'm a wrestler. I'm a fighter. I'm going to do what I can to put you in your place, boy. And I think the two of them just played off each other perfectly.
Yeah, and we will discuss this more as we get onto their match on the pay-per-view as well. But I think the best thing you can say about Piper is that he convincingly, in a promo sense, knocked Goldust down, but in a literal sense, well, not in a literal sense, but in another way that actually built Goldust up. Like his promo was so good that he was able to get shots in on Goldust in a way that in isolation you think, oh, good shot. But when you look at the program and the promo as a whole, and the promo that Goldust cut within Piper's Pit the week before, you got to the end of the whole thing and it's like Goldust took a beating, and verbally and physically. Get to the end of it, he's more over. And that's credit in part to Goldust, who's playing a very good role, but credit, I think, in a bigger part just to Piper, who's so good. I wouldn't say they've lucked into Razor Ramon being suspended for a drug test failure, but this ended up far better than I think anyone could imagine.
Kenny Loggins said it best. This is it. WrestleMania is just around the corner, and I can't wait. I can't believe this one. The Huckster and the Nacho Man. The WWF is gonna give it away for free on the free-for-all. Hey, they might as well. Even I can't figure out a way to make a buck on this one. This just in, a stipulation has been added. No handcuffs or ladies' shoes will be allowed at ringside. Boy, that will surely handicap the intrigue in this one. I understand the Huckster's been training hard for this one. Let's take a look. What factor will hair have in this matchup? We'll find out real soon. By the way, Billionaire Ted will be the special guest referee for this match, if he can pull himself away from those FTC hearings, which, by the way, we will bring to you next week. Now, don't forget to call me on the hotline. Rumors are flying about the sun and the possibility of darkness tonight. Will there be nightfall? I can't tell you here on TV, but call my hotline for this exclusive information.
And we move on to the final discussion point ahead of this month's pay-per-view. All things Billionaire Ted. Dal, I want to start with the Geriatric Control Centre. I mean, yeah. We've discussed this for the last couple of months, so I don't want to do too much on Billionaire Ted. I think they've, clearly they had ulterior motives with this thing, and I don't know how well that stuck. They made an appeal on one of this month's show for WWF fans. If you share our concerns, to write to the STC. And I don't think many do, but I think in terms of their hits on WCW, in terms of all the segments, I thought Geriatric Control Centre was more on point than anything else they've done.
On the money. Absolutely. Do call 1-900 Lying Baldy, by the way.
Lying Baldy. 1-900 Lying Baldy.
Yeah. I think there was concerns maybe earlier in the year just where this was going. There was the full kind of round table conference room, kind of smoky atmosphere, and brother, and oh yeah, and it was kind of funny to watch. You'd seen it once, you'd seen it, you get another couple of follow-ups. It didn't really go anywhere, and I don't know how they've managed to do it, because I genuinely can't remember, even in the last kind of 4 or 5 years, I genuinely can't remember any time where I've laughed out loud, but at something that was intentionally comedy. There's been a few instances in WCW, certainly by no means is there a shortage of them in part 2 of this month's show.
Piper's had a few good lines in the last couple of months, to be fair. That's
true actually, to be fair. But I just think this has been so good, and as you say, that geriatric control centre with Scheme Gene was just, they just seem to have nailed it, and it is an easy target when you look down south. There is kind of noticeable targets there where it is it's easy shots to make, but it's easy enough having those shots, but actually hitting the target, and as consistently as I'd say they've done this month, I think hats off to them. I think they've done brilliant.
Why?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was round about the Royal Rumble time when we first started covering these segments, and I know I was actually quite critical at the time, but they have turned me around, like Del says. There's been quite a few of them where I have actually laughed out loud. I think the one where it was the game show one. It was a bit of a lesson for me as well. There was a lot of things I didn't know about Billionaire Ted. And obviously, some of those made me, quite chuckle at the same time as well. And yeah, this one, like you said, it was, hitting a home run with it, and, they've come on more, as the weeks have gone by, and push the barriers a little bit more with what they've been saying and what they've been getting away with.
Will the sunshine bring nightfall? I can't tell you on TV, but call my hotline to find out. That's so good. Like, forget everything else. That's so well done. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, we'll move on for the rest of the TV. I think we'll probably discuss it, because I think what is the culmination of the Billionaire Ted stuff is happening on the WrestleMania pre-show. So we'll cover that, and then we'll probably have a quick wrap up of all of that. We open up Raw on March the 18th with footage of Diesel cutting loose at a house show with a steel chair, going after both The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. We open with Jake the Snake Roberts against the British Bulldog. Roberts DDT's Bulldog, but Cornette pulls him off the pin. Apparently the ref didn't see it. Cornette's facial expressions when Roberts gets his snake out are great. All of this is going on. Roberts ends up being counted out. Another set of training videos with Shawn and Bret. Bret says for the first time he feels there's some momentum going against him with some of the fans. Bret describes Shawn as getting a little beating in Syracuse. It's a good thing to be confident, but to be irritating or cocky? Goldust comes out for his match wearing a kilt. They're even giving him entrance some special effects film and showing it in widescreen. Roddy Piper calls in during the fight and says he's the last guy he wants to face in a street fight at WrestleMania. Goldust makes light work of Fatu in his match. We get a video package showing the Ultimate Warrior. Unsurprisingly, the clip shows him pinning Randy Savage. We cut the footage from Superstars with Jake Roberts alongside Yokozuna and Ahmed Johnson laying down the 6-man challenge. Back on Raw, we're in the ring with Cornette, Bulldog, Vader and Owen. Bulldog manages to call it the World Wrestling Foundation at one stage. Cornette said Yokozuna hired him because he couldn't speak for himself because he was a blithering idiot. Vader is going to be twice the champion you will ever will be. Challenge accepted. What time is it? It's Vader time. We cut to the video wall where we get promos from the baby faces. Apparently in the fine print, if the faces win, Yokozuna gets 5 minutes in the ring with Cornette. Cornette understandably isn't happy. We see highlights from the NMSG house show. The tag match between Bret and The Undertaker against Diesel and Shawn. Diesel lays waste to Bret and Taker with a chair, and then Shawn. Michaels, as he is being helped to the back, said, "I'm going to kick his 7-foot ass." Back on Raw, Diesel is facing Barry Horowitz. Paul Bearer wheels out a casket and lays it at ringside. Diesel beats Horowitz, then grabs a wrench from the timekeeper and approaches the casket. He opens it, but inside is a fake Diesel. They cleverly intersected the live shot from the show with a shot of Diesel inside the casket earlier. Diesel looks freaked out. The main event is Bret against the Tanker. The 1-2-3 Kid walks out during his match, and my word is he skinny. Anyway, if it's illustrative of how they treat Bret, he only wins this via roll-up after Tatanka leathers the Kid by accident. We end the show with hearings at the Federal Turner Commission, the usual Billionaire Ted stuff. He says, "You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. Do you realise how many lives I've destroyed, how many companies I put out of business?" Eventually Turner admits he's trying to put the WWF out of business. A disclaimer runs at the end of the show saying Turner will testify before the FTC this month, and that if it is approved, Turner would exercise significant control over 50% of the cable outlets in the US. They then said that if fans shared their concerns, they could write to the chairman of the FTC before listing his name and work address. We open up Raw on March the 25th with Shawn Michaels on his way to ringside with the click cam. We're in San Antonio, as if Shawn needed a reason to get a great reaction anyway. Shawn introduces Jose Lothario. He opens up against Leif Cassidy, who seems delighted to be wrestling Shawn, as perhaps he should be. Bret walks out to ringside. Joey Lawler claims he left the lights on his car, so he scarpers. Cassidy catches Michaels on the run and drops him with a powerbomb that gets a gas from the crowd. Out now walks Cassidy's tag team partner, Marty Jannetty. Bret continues the narrative that Shawn's wrestling style, while flashy, isn't tough. Marty Jannetty gets involved at ringside. Bret stares him down. Shawn superkicks Cassidy and wins the match. He then immediately goes to ringside, seeming to think it was Bret, which is a bit odd, to have a heated exchange while Lothario breaks them up. Hunter Hearst Helmsley makes light work of Aldo Montoya. Ahead of the backlot brawl at WrestleMania, Goldust is on set with a mannequin dressed as Roddy Piper. Usual Goldust fodder this. He ends up smashing up the mannequin. Doc Hendricks is peddling personalised WrestleMania jackets. These can be yours for 3 easy monthly payments of $59.95. The first Raw in April will feature the debut of Mankind. We then get a promo segment from Paul Bearer chronicling the feud with Diesel. Undertaker says that when all is said and done, all that will be left at WrestleMania is the carcass of Big Daddy Cool. We get an extended video preview of Bret and Shawn along similar lines to what we've seen for the rest of the month. Bret seems to be talking about Shawn much more than Shawn seems to be talking about Bret. The main event is Owen Hart against Ahmed Johnson. Johnson offers a test of strength that Owen can't reach. Johnson gets down on one knee, but Owen just sucker punches him. This, not surprisingly, ends in a DQ when Bulldog attacks Johnson. Vader comes out for the 3-on-1 attack. Out comes Yokozuna and Jake Roberts. They run off the heels, and we end the show with a video package looking at Bret Hart. And we move on to our coverage of WrestleMania. We start on the free-for-all on the pre-show section prior to the show. Todd Pettengill opens up. He wanders into the arena. He asks the fans if they're ready for the Ultimate Warrior. We get fairly big cheers. Are they ready for the Ironman match? Fewer cheers. Sunny comes out on the mic with Skip and Zip. Her voice is bloody annoying. And we come out to the opening match. It's the Body Donners, Skip and Zip, with Sunny versus the Godwins, Henry O. Godwin and Phineas I. Godwin. That's Hog and Pig for those counting. With Hillbilly Jim. Almost as funny as High Knee on part 2. Anyway. Henry does a big back body drop on Skip, then a press slam on Zip. Phineas goes wildly swinging in the heel corner. Henry has to calm him down. Henry catapults Zip over the top to the outside, taking out Skip. The heels do a double team slingshot suplex for a 2. Henry plays the babyface in peril. The heels try a double team splash with Zip flinging Skip off the top rope. Phineas gets the hot tag. He goes for a slop drop. Sunny climbs on the apron and shows him her ass. One of the Body Donners gets a roll-up off of the distraction and wins the match. Sunny says to the camera as they're walking to the back, "Not only am I the best manager, but I've also got the best butt in the WWF." Wayne, any qualms about that?
Cannot disagree.
Thoughts on the match?
Yeah, I thought it was a real fun tag match, and I'm not quite sure why they couldn't have had this on the pay-per-view. I know that they're trying to put a good match on the free-for-all, but there's a whole host of many of the wrestlers on a roster that they could have put into this position. That would have been a fun little match, and have a title match on the main show.
Would you really promote this to the main show? Really? I know it's a tag title match. It wasn't that good.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, it was a fun little tag match. I probably wouldn't have put it high up the card, but is it not the? It's the final of a knockout tournament for the tag team titles.
It's not the worst match we're going to see this evening.
No, but
let's say that.
I mean, like I said, it was quite good. Again, the body donners, just like we saw from them when they faced the Smoking Guns a couple of months back. You know, nice little tag team. Got something going. Good chemistry. Real good double team moves. And as I said, it was full little tag match. It was good.
Del?
I agree with Wayne to an extent, Bob, with the placement. It is good having this on a free for all, but as Wayne says, it's this tag titles here that's meant to be a title that's prestigious. I think the issue that the Fed's got at the minute is just the lack of star power, particularly in that division. Watching the free for all, yeah, it's good that you don't have to pay for it, but when you see the Body Donnas coming out, the Godwins coming out, this must be part of this tournament that they're holding for these tag titles, then you work out that it's the final. It's like, if these are like getting through 3 rounds of tag fights, who the hell was in the first round? Sunny, I think's definitely coming on. I think she's got a lot about her. Buns of the Year, I still think Yokozuna was robbed, but there's no accounting for taste. It filled a spot. I thought they'd done alright. It's something there just to warm up the crowd. This isn't going to appear on a $20, $30, $40 pay-per-view. I thought it was placed well enough for the combatants. I'd like to see the titles on the show when you're only really seeing the one title on the show, with the exception of Stunning Steve's $1 million belt, obviously, but I think it's more an indictment of the lack of talent in that tag division, to be honest. Yeah,
I don't think any of us would sit here and argue that a match between the Body Donners and the Godwins should be on WrestleMania. I think the only justification is that it's a tag title match. I think I will give them a pass on the placement. It does say a lot about their tag title division that it's so thin on the ground. I mean, when ECW can have a tag title division that's far stronger than yours, you've got some problems. And unlike, say, 4 or 5 months ago, they are now miles behind the WCW tag title division as well. Not great. The only interesting thing of note was the kind of reverse catapult sting shot from Henry O. Godwin to Zip, which sent Zip over the outside and took out Skip. That was quite a nice moment. Other than that, not a lot of note. The crowd were dead for it, really, which for an opening match, I know they need to be warmed up, but I don't think they cared. Anyway, we get some video packages previewing the Ultimate Warrior and the Diesel Undertaker match.
Over him. Oh, look at this. He's having some difficulty getting a shirt off. Scheme Team and Billionaire Ted trying to rip that off.
Look at the hucksters, Bob.
Physique.
I'll tell you.
What an improvement.
What the pharmacist gave him, Father Time is taken away.
And let's go to Billionaire Ted.
Opponent, you gotta buy him out. Yeah?
Typical.
Spare no expense to squash him like a bug.
Heard that before.
And may the best and highest paid wrestler win.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he winked.
All right.
McMahon,
Go ahead.
are you watching this? McMahon.
And we cut to the geriatric match. We're in a high school gym. As Del said, this was pre-shot. There's probably about 60 people in attendance. Nacho Man attempts to climb the turnbuckle, but cannot get even on the first one. A person facing the fans holds up a sign saying cheer, and the 3 rows of fans all do. They're noticeably all very old. The Huckster comes out on a Zimmer frame. Laura and King are doing the commentary. They fast forward to help Hogan to the ring, which, I tell you, while I think about it, of all the things to mock somebody for taking ages to get to the ring, not something that you can easily hold up after what happened at WrestleMania. Anyway, Hogan gets tended to by a medic with some oxygen at ringside. They've got an ambulance parked on the aisleway. Hogan rolls in under the bottom rope, and Lawler nearly falls asleep. Hogan attempts to rip his shirt off, but he can't do it, so special guest referee Billionaire Ted and Scheme Gene help him do it. We get comments from Ted, who says, if you can't beat your opponents, you've got to buy them out. Spare no expense and squash them like a bug. Savage falls off the second rope again. The medic jumps in the ring, has to revive him. Nacho grabs a heeled shoe from a fan at ringside. Hogan knocks him over with a chair. Nacho Man, knocks Hogan over with the shoe. They both spark out. Billionaire Ted calls it a draw.
I believe it has.
Ted, what's going to happen with your wrestling company now that both your top stars have, well, expired?
Well, yeah, they can die all they want. I'll just buy more stars.
Oh, compassion,
I don't know how to make stars, so I have to buy stars.
Listen, he's telling the truth. Oh, my goodness. Wait a minute. There's the FTC man.
I'll tell you, well, here's one star you may not be able to buy.
What is going on? FTC? Another feeble turn.
They can die all they want. I'll just buy more. Behind them on the ring steps up a guy covered completely in black with FTC written on his shirt. Billionaire Ted looks around and collapses. Del, fill us in on this.
Yeah, actually, you want to know what this is like, just listening to you read that. It's kind of like watching Airplane for the first time, where it's like there's that much in it you actually forget. And then even just listening to you read through, it's like, oh, I forgot that. I think that they've genuinely nailed this. I don't think there's anything that they could do to make this better. And as I say, coming in, I had concerns about this. You were saying the crowd was dead for the final of the tag tournament bracket. I thought there was just going to be absolute crickets for this. But they had the sense to pre-tape it. I thought the setting it was brilliant, just in a high school gym. The in-jokes that were there, whether it's the shoe or the FTC or Scheme Gene, it was just really, the kind of way it was shot was a bit annoying with Vince and King. It was almost like watching a Siskel and Ebert review when they're kind of parked it as if they're in a cinema watching it. It was a bit kind of hard to get into. But apart from that, I thought they'd done so good, and you weren't expecting a match, and I think that's what the worry was going in, where it's like these two legitimate old guys, even more so possibly than the real things. I just thought they'd done so good, and as I say, there was that much buried in a little couple of minute segment. I just thought they absolutely nailed it, start to finish.
Del, is this the best built match of the night?
Probably.
It probably is. When you think about it, it's been built for 3 months.
Yeah,
they've been shown on TV every week.
Yeah.
They're characters we know about. They're characters we recognise. The story has been very consistent.
And genuine evolution, which you don't really see in the Fed match these days, as much as they've tried with Bet Shawn. Worryingly, I would say you're probably right.
What?
I think you've hit the nail on the head with everything you've said about this segment so far. Well, all of them actually. Yeah, everything from start to finish. It probably has got the best build of the whole WrestleMania card, and it's not even on the main show. But yeah, I mean everything. The little side notes that they kept mentioning about little things. Shoes being used in matches and handcuffs. It's just everything that we've come to moan about regarding WCW over the for as long as I've probably been on this show for. Yeah, they're probably signing off strong with the whole segment. With the way that it finished, but yeah, they've done really well with it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was when this segment started, I was a bit uneasy. But the minute they cut to the bloke facing the fans and holding up the cheer sign, I bought in at that moment. I went, this is too good. Yeah, they did really well. I mean, I don't think it was a complete home run, and there are negatives that we discussed before that I won't go over again, but in terms of the segment, they got more right than they got wrong. The guy playing Billionaire Ted is so good. His demeanour is absolutely fantastic. They can die all they want, I'll just buy more. That's such a good line. And then, as I say, the angle with the FTC bit at the end, I mean, let's be honest, they got this right. I mean, if they'd have put this on the main show in front of the crowd, who knows how they'd have reacted. But they thought, you know what, let's do it right. We'll do it at a high school gym so we can mock how few people turn up to their shows. We can then have, the old crowd sat in front of them. We can put the ambulance at ringside. I give this an 8 out of 10, this segment. Not perfect, but the bit at the end where Ted turns around, sees the guy dressed as the FTC and then just collapses and they kind of pan out a little bit and you just got all 3 guys spark out on the mat. Really, really well done. But Wayne, what does it say that this, I joke, it's probably the best built match on this show. It probably is.
Yeah, it is. Like you said, I mean, you can't disagree with the fact that they've had the build from the Royal Rumble. In fact, I'm sure that the segment started
on the first Raw in January. It's been going for 3 months.
So it was even before Shawn Michaels won the Royal Rumble. So, you know, if that's the main event that is in a 1 hour Ironman match, and this has had bigger build in it, then questions have got to be asked.
Yeah, I think that, you know, if you were to take out all of the kind of political references and all the stuff where they're angling, I think there's enough in this where it kind of makes sense. There's enough jives at WCW, and let's be clear, WCW have not helped themselves in this regard. The stuff with the high-heeled shoes, the stuff with Hulk Hogan having to handcuff himself to the turnbuckle to get an angle over. They've not helped themselves, but I think the more you break this down in terms of the drives at WCW have worked really well. I don't know whether the FTC stuff has worked, and I don't know whether the stuff looking, you know, has reflected well on them in terms of the stuff about the steroids, the stuff that's not going to reflect well when Diesel and Razor Ramon rock up on Nitro in a couple of months' time. You know, I don't know that that's worked well, but their shots at WCW have been on point. The Geriatric Control Center was really good. The guy playing Billionaire Ted was really good. How people are going to remember this? I think they're going to remember the line about Turner buying talent. I think they're going to remember the line from probably the second week in January where Turner says, I know he said it here as well, but Turner says, I don't need to create talent, I'll just buy it. Yes. In the case of Diesel and Razor Ramon, that's exactly what happened. And that's the kind of weird flip side of all this. The idea behind this has been to damage WCW. And yet, if anything, it's just pointing out to WWS fans that one, WCW exists, two, they've still got Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, and three, that's the place where WWF's biggest stars go and become bigger. Like, that's probably the end game. But anyway, we move on. We end the show with a lot of video packages from Shawn and Bret, along with highlights from the Slammy Awards. I think it was from the previous night, I think. And Del, you could kick us off with your results for WrestleMania 12.
Yep, flying off, Bob, we've got Camp Cornette, which was the team of Vader, Owen Hart and the British Bulldog. They defeated Ahmed Johnson, Jake the Snake Roberts and Yokozuna. We then cut to at least part one of the Hollywood Backlot Brawl, which eventually finishes in a no contest, and that was between Roddy Piper and Goldust. Then the $1 Million champion, Stone Cold Steve Austin, he defeated Savio Vega. The returning Ultimate Warrior defeated Hunter Hearst Helmsley. The Undertaker defeated Diesel, and in the main event, Shawn Michaels fought Bret Hart to a draw, and then in sudden death overtime, Shawn overcame Bret to win the WWF World Heavyweight Championship.
Wayne, what do you think of this show?
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. You know, there was probably maybe one match that was that wasn't up to scratch, but you know, I mean, the main event we'll get to, and you know, we'll probably dissect it in more ways than one. But I thought there was a lot of fun matches on the card, and you know, a nice little ending to WrestleMania as well.
Done.
I don't know what it says about next year, Bob, because in the last kind of 4 or 5 year, WWF seem to have kind of created almost this habit of even numbers are good. WrestleMania's odd numbers aren't so good. With last year, which wasn't up to much, this was certainly better than that. 10 was really good, 9 was really bad, and 8 was really good. So I don't know what it says about 13. This was legitimately probably the easiest to watch WWF pay-per-view I have seen in a long time. The first half went rapidly. The main event, I think there's been some kind of mixed reviews. I think some people could kind of say that it maybe dragged a bit, but it's something that I've personally never seen before, certainly in this company. I thought they really done it well. There was some matches in the middle that, whilst quick, I thought done their job. I thought the full thing was really, really good.
I think if you analyse this show just from a perspective that we kind of probably would be, I don't want to say a bit below us, that's a bit arrogant, but if you analyse this show just from a casual fan watching a 3-hour wrestling show, I think you'd say good show. In that the guys, you know, there was enough on the show in the first hour and a bit to keep you interested, even though it kind of went up and down, and the main event was interesting enough. I think when you put it on the kind of level that we'll pick it apart at, it falls down a bit, like in terms of the star power, the placement of some of these guys, the fact that there's a good case to say that the two most popular, two of the top four, in fact, three of probably the five most popular guys on the show are guys that were around in the 80s, which isn't great. And then it's the main event, and the main event really is the show. In the sense that I think by the end of it, I don't know you're remembering much else of the show itself. And the main event, really, if you like the main event, you like the show. Judging by the response in terms of the people in the arena, I don't know that everybody did. But we'll discuss the main event later on. We open up with a pyro display. Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler have the call. And it's Vader, the British Bulldog, and Owen Hart with Jim Cornette versus Yokozuna, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Ahmed Johnson. The stipulation of the match is that if the babyface team can win the match, Yokozuna will get 5 minutes in the ring with Jim Cornette afterwards. In my notes, I've got Davey Boy Smith seeming a little bit leaner than usual. Del, was that just me?
That must just be a coincidence. Maybe changed his diet or something. It's certainly nothing to do with Dr. George O'Horian.
Maybe not. But he did seem thinner than like a couple of months ago. Maybe it was just the wider angle, but anyway.
Wider angle, plus he has had a haircut, to be fair. So.
That too as well. We start with all six men going at it. Vader goes for a clothesline. Yokozuna ducks and sends Vader to the mat and to the outside. Ahmed Johnson goes for a flip dive over the top onto Vader. Owen tags in, runs at Yokozuna's back elbow. Vader tags back in and unleashes some Vader strikes on Yokozuna that send him collapsing to the mat. Yokozuna ducks a right hand and sends Vader to the mat with a one-arm slam. Ahmed Johnson tags in and takes out both Owen and Bulldog, the latter with a big scoop slam. Ahmed sets for a Pearl River plunge on Davey, but Owen flings himself off of the top turnbuckle with a big drop kick to break it up. Jake Roberts tags in and levels Owen before taking Bulldog off of the apron. He signals for the DDT, which fires up the crowd, but Owen escapes. Robert charges at Owen in the corner, but meets a big knee. Vader hits a running splash on Roberts, then levels him with a right. Owen drops an elbow from the top for a 2. Bulldog follows that with a running power slam for a 2. Yokozuna gets a tag in on Roberts and goes after Vader, hitting him with a load of punches in the corner that eventually sees Vader hit the mat. The crowd get whipped up during that one. Yokozuna hits a Samoan drop on Bulldog. The ring clears. Roberts DDTs Owen. Roberts low blows Cornette, who approaches him with a tennis racket. Roberts sets the DDT Cornette. Vader runs Roberts over, then hits a Vader bomb on Roberts for the win. Wayne, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good opener. He gave a lot of shine to some of the limited guys in there as well. I can't really argue with the match that they put on. They was all given a bit of time, and you can tell that they was all given time because we saw all three baby faces get a hot tag each. So that was it was nice to see as well. The really impressed with the stable that they've got there now. Camp Cornette. Obviously, we've got this match itself has obviously kept Vader hot. I'm not sure if it's going to keep the angle going. I'm not quite sure, but it's definitely keeping Vader hot. And with the pairing of Owen and Bulldog, which is really good dynamic between the two. And then you've got your main event heel with Vader, and the way that they've built him, and Diesel going, and Bret Hart taking time off. We're probably looking at Shawn Michaels is first main heel opponent. The only thing I'd be saying about this match more than anything is Ahmed Johnson once again. We covered him off in the Royal Rumble, and speaking about him, we were saying that he's still really, really green in the ring. I thought this would have probably been better suited for him, and in a way it was. As I said, it did give him a bit of shine when he got his hot tag and he was coming in clearing house. But just simple things again. High spots, that move when he jumped over the rope. I think it was Vader on the outside. Again, I thought he was going to land on his head. You've got to cut all those kind of high spots out, and the ring awareness as well, and match awareness. I think Yokozuna there was 1 minute when he cleared house, and then Ahmed Johnson was stood at the side of him, and then just gave Bulldog a body slam, and then just went out. It was all a bit weird. It was like simple things like that he probably needs to cut out if they are wanting to push him into this star that they are looking to.
Del.
I don't want to overstate this, Bob, because it was certainly far away for a 5-star match, but there's a very strong argument this was the perfect opener for this card, and it was almost the perfect kind of match-up between these two teams. You've got this kind of just despicable prick in Jim Cornette, and he plays it to perfection. He's just rounding up these big guys to protect him. You've then got a team with Mr. Fuji where everybody's kind of got a weakness, but the weakness I thought was hid very well. Ahmed Johnson, as Wayne says, is pretty fresh out the gates. As a look, he's phenomenal. He's a tank. He's in there with Davey Boy Smith, and he just dwarfs him, in my opinion. Jake is one of my favourite wrestlers of all time. He's still to this day, and I very much doubt in the near future it'll be better. Does his promo, his psychology, he's shit hot, but he's getting a bit long in the tooth. He can't quite pull off the kind of matches that he was doing before. They had that very well. Yokozuna's got the best facials going that I've seen for a while. He just sells a reaction brilliantly. Doesn't quite work as well as a good guy as it does a bad guy, but again, his kind of weakness there is fitness. He wasn't overexposed in it. Owen and Davey Boy have just got total chops for a tag team run. That's certainly something that could beef up their tag division. And as you say, Vader's just the best big man in the world now for me. I thought it was a really good match. There wasn't a lot of bells and whistles on it, but what they did do, I thought they'd done very, very well.
Yeah, very good match. I wouldn't disagree with what you say, although to say that while it was probably all full of positives, it probably wasn't quite as good as three glowing references necessarily suggest. But in the sense that there is no individual combination of two guys in this match that probably would have had a more interesting match than the bout we got. It was a big tick. If anything, I think the only major negative was that they packed in so much relative star power into the opening match that they kind of could have done with a bit of it down the road. In that there were guys here that people were reacting to that they probably could have done with in other matches. And when you break it down, the crowd were really reacting for two things. One, they were reacting for Jake Roberts, which makes sense. And the other thing they were reacting to, which was interesting, was Vader and Yokozuna. The kind of couple of square-offs and battles those two had during the match was very well received. Other than that, I think it was guys that they're somewhat interested in small enough bursts where it was entertaining without dragging. I think Wayne makes a good point about Ahmed Johnson. This was a really good spot for him. It was a good spot for Jake Roberts. Jake Roberts couldn't have been in a singles match on this show and got away with it, I don't think. But as it was, in many ways the perfect opener. As I say, the criticism probably is that we didn't get Vader later on in the show. We perhaps could have done with an Owen Hart match later on in the show, or later on, kind of in the first half, really. But yeah, I think three, 6 collective thumbs up from us three on that one. We go out to the parking lot for a brawl between the back lot for a brawl between Piper and Goldust. A gold car comes onto the set. Piper sprays it with a hose, then smashes in the windows with a baseball bat. Piper hits Goldust with the bat a few times, then a bin inexplicably full of shredded paper. Piper then sprays him with the hose, then slams his head onto the bonnet. He tries a body slam, but only just gets Goldust up. Goldust gets a low blow in, jumps in the car and attempts to drive off. He drives at Piper. Piper falls onto the hood of the car and gets driven down the lot before falling off. Goldust flees. Piper climbs into a van and goes off in pursuit. Dal, if we're going to call this the first half of this match, what do you think?
It's a street fight and Roddy Piper is wearing street clothes. That's going to sound a really daft comment, but it just makes a world of difference. And again, what we were saying earlier on about his kind of part in this full feud, you buy into it. It makes sense. You believe him. And this was ridiculous. You get Goldust turning up in a gold Cadillac. You get Roddy Piper spraying it with a hose as if that's going to hurt Goldust. I can see it if he was driving and he might crash, but he was stationary. It was absolutely ridiculous, but sublimely ridiculous. I thought even the bit where Goldust runs him over in the car, the bit with the bat and smashing the windows, just the real feel of it. I don't really know how it was just, I thought this was brilliant. I really did, Bob.
Why?
No, I totally agree. I thought it was a great setup for what was an entertaining night for these two with what we got in store. My only concern is I'm not really sure if Goldust was really up for this match, considering the repercussions of his last match that entailed a moving vehicle and what come after. So yeah, I was a bit shocked that he decided to take it onto the road. But yeah, no, like Del says, Roddy Piper, he's a believable character in this role, and if he says that he's going out there for a street fight, damn well he's going to be going out there with his bat to hand, swinging it around like he was, and some of those shots he was doing with the bat was quite scary. I thought he took his head off at one point, but yeah, massive thumbs up for me on this, because they really played well with it, and like I said, we'll cover more off later.
Yeah, I think the major concern would have been how they received this in the arena. Obviously, something taped. Yeah, I was actually checked the day before, I think, but apparently it was one of the most over things of the entire show, which is a testimony in part to Piper, even though it was essentially played on the video wall. Very good. Both guys deserve a lot of credit. I mean, maybe it was a bit one-sided, but, given what happened, it was very memorable. I mean, I think that's the thing. I mean, perhaps I overdid it saying, you'd end the show and just remember the main event. I think anything involving Piper, you'd be on top of. It was really well done. Quite where they got a crowd for, I'm not sure, but they had a few people there kind of watching along.
It's a Hollywood backlot prop.
Yeah,
they were out there they were out there at the catering stand
having lunch. But yeah, quite where they got a hose from as well.
Fire hydrant. They're shooting a fire movie.
You've got some good answers, Dargie.
I have got the corners covered in this, Bob.
Yeah, no, very, very well done. But my only major observation was Piper having been run over. The car speeds off. Piper gets up, runs a good distance to get into, I don't know, his SUV or whatever you'd call it. And then in the 60 seconds all of this happens, apparently Piper was able to follow Goldust's trail, and we'll pick up on that in a bit. And we move on next to Stone Cold Steve Austin with Ted DiBiase versus Savio Vega. They basically just called him Stone Cold Steve Austin. They haven't really explained it. Apparently he's got a stone cold demeanour, for what that's worth. The beef for this feud apparently was the breakup of Austin and Vega's wildcard tag team in the tournament that aired on Superstars, where Austin cost him and Vega the match. That was it. Austin attacks Vega as he gets into the ring. It spills to the outside, but Austin regains control, driving Vega's shoulder first into the ring post. Austin starts working the arm, but Vega flips out of it and hits a spin kick. We get joined by Roddy Piper on the phone. We can hear sirens in the background. Austin goes back to the arm as we settle in for a rest hold. We join Piper again on the phone. This time he says he doesn't care if he's headed to Tijuana. He's getting gold dust. Austin hits a Thez press, almost inadvertently gets a 3. Vader goes for a pin for his own for a 2. We now join aerial footage. Yes, they've actually got a helicopter on this. Piper is being tailed by 4 police cars. Vega goes for a splash, but Austin gets his knees up. Vega nearly sneaks it with a small package. Austin goes to the top, but only gets met by the extended boot of Vega. Vega knocks down Austin a few times, then Austin does a wheel kick and Vega takes down the ref. DiBiase puts the $1 million title on the apron. Austin shakes the $1 million dream submission, but Vega evades it. Austin hits Vega with the $1 million title, then a second shot while he's lying on the apron. The referee is selling it like he's been shot. Austin goes for a chokehold. The referee, DiBiase revives the referee with some water. The crowd are dead silent for this. The referee comes to, and Austin is awarded the match after Vega passes out. Wayne.
It wasn't an awful match. It was, probably something that you'd see on a TV show, a Raw or Superstars or something like that. It was probably Austin carrying most of the match as well. It was probably there as a showcase to, let us have an outlook of his new demeanour, his new character, etc. But unfortunately, the match was probably overshadowed by the updates of the Roddy, which I didn't mind. I'll be open and honest. I didn't mind these updates because I found them quite funny. But unfortunately, it just overshadowed the match as a whole.
No.
Bob, I don't know if you've picked up from my accent, but I'm not American. Right? I don't know if
funnily enough, that Del, 18 months doing the show I hadn't, but carry on.
I swear to God, I'm not American. I don't know if there's only 3 phone lines in America. There seems to be the Bat phone, there seems to be Scheme Jean's hotline, and there seems to be the phone that Roddy Piper always phones to Vince McMahon at the commentary desk. I don't quite know how he done it last year in the build-up to King of the Ring, because quite frankly, 2 years ago at King of the Ring, because he couldn't be bothered turning up. He's now doing it again. I don't know how he seems to do this, but fair play to him, especially for a rapidly moving car, although there's been rumours that might be doctored footage or at least replayed footage. I didn't think this match was as bad. I don't know whether I'm just on the Kool-Aid for this, but I'm really enjoying this show so far. The Steve Austin thing, it kind of confuses me at the minute, because I really like this kind of Stone Cold thing. You can see he's got this kind of Stone Cold demeanour. He's grimacing.
Can you see anything?
I don't know, but I really want to, because I liked Stunning Steve back in the day. I really liked that, albeit brief, kind of interception almost to Steve Austin that we've seen in Philly. This is a bit straight. There's evolution going on here. I don't know whether it's going to have an end goal, but he came in with a buzz cut. It's away, skinhead now. He came in with the white boots, they're away. It's just black tights, black boots, no frills. I like this demeanour with the Stone Cold attitude coming to the ring, just scowling at the cameras, scowling at the crowd. Being that he's Stone Cold and he's not really talking, it makes sense for him to have Ted DiBiase. I don't know how long the legs are on that. And then especially when you see kind of the highlight of Steve Austin in the last 5 years was the month that he spent at ECW when he was actually showing character for the first time in years. But then as soon as he came into New York, that's away. I don't quite get that. I don't know whether maybe some people that didn't like this maybe just had a bit of a bee in their bonnet still, because they're still hungover for seeing Savio Vega 4 times last June. I thought this was pretty decent. It was never going to be a reason for folk to buy tickets to go and see this, but I thought they'd done pretty well. It was pretty stiff. I must pull you up, Bob, to be honest. You did undersell that ref bump. God love Timmy White. It wasn't even water that revived him with DiBiase. It was a soda complete with ice, which just wrapped him round the face, and he no-sold the hell at it. God love him.
Well, okay. This is not as bad as Diamond Dallas Page and the Booty Man from Part 2, but this is a bad match. I mean, I'm surprised that you two, even you didn't give it a glowing reference, but I'm surprised you talked as much as you did. I mean, nobody cared. I mean, okay, to a point, you're having a match which is being interspersed with cut-ins from Roddy Piper, and we'll discuss those probably when we get to the second half of the Piper match. But what a match to have second up on WrestleMania. Nobody gave a fuck. And it's an Austin character that's 3 months into his run that we've barely seen anything of on TV other than in matches. We haven't heard from him at all, which, you look at Austin in 3 months in ECW. Come on, guys, we can learn something. This guy can talk better than he can wrestle. And nobody cares about Vega. And it was kind of one of the themes that ran throughout the show was there were a lot of guys in this show that had just come on the roster, or it felt like it. In fact, maybe there wasn't. I suppose maybe you can include the guys on the pre-show, maybe not on the main show itself. Match just didn't work, I don't think. Nobody cared, there's nothing on it. And it's kind of a bit like, if you want to make Austin this player, you want to make Austin number 2, number 3, number 4 heel maybe, why isn't he just beating Savio Vega? It's like what I said about Hunter Hearst Helmsley last month. Just beat the guy. I know WWF is a promotion where baby heels rarely win clean. This is the time to do it. And again, the problem is that people don't care enough about Vega, so they don't care enough about Austin. The match didn't work. The finish was bad. Nobody cared. Let's move on. We join aerial footage of Piper being driven down a freeway. Mr. Perfect is backstage with Diesel. Diesel says he's taking care of Undertaker tonight, then he wishes Shawn good luck. He's coming for him next. Hunter Hearst Helmsley is out with a woman by his side. I'll tie that story up a bit in a minute. He's facing the Ultimate Warrior. We get the director's cut of Helmsley's entrance. That was a long one. No fast forwarding through this. Warrior's music hits to a big pop from the crowd. We get some Warrior-shaped pyro and he charges down to the ring. Warrior's total entrance is even longer than Hunter's. We start the match out at a pace. Hunter hits a pedigree almost straight away. Warrior pops straight back up and starts showboating, hitting 3 clotheslines. He no-sold that whole thing. He bounces off the ropes with a flying shoulder tackle, does his arm-raising pose, hits a press slam, then goes for a splash and picks up the win. Del.
I'm trying to think of manoeuvres in this business, Bob. There's Stevie Richards' super kick. There's Ric Flair's figure 4. There's, to a lesser extent, Taker's tombstone. I genuinely don't think there's a more over move in this business today than Hunter Helmsley's pedigree. And Jim Hellwig I've defended a lot in my time as a wrestling fan. There was the full issue with the kind of walkout and the holding up Vince. There was a bit of a bitter feeling there for a while. There was rumours that he was going to WCW. Unfortunately, we get the fucking Renegade. But I can see the reason why they done it, because the Warrior's back. They want to make an impact. You're going to get very, very few more dislikable people than Hunter Helmsley. I can see the reason they've done it. But I just didn't like the start of this with that pedigree and then the absolute no-sell for Warrior. I can see why. As I say, it was only a 90-second, 2-minute match tops. The Warrior's back. He got the pop at the start with Pettengill. God love him. He was out trying to get a rise out of that crowd, and the only thing it could do it was dropping Jim Hellwig's name. I don't know. He's back. It's nice to see him. Thankfully, it wasn't £400 with a buzz cut like Jerry was trying to tell us. The full pyro, I think, was a really nice touch to actually make it feel like a big deal. I just think they could have went about this in a better way to make Warrior look as big as he did in this, but without killing that move with Helmsley's.
Why?
Yeah, I think the only good thing I can probably say about it is that Hunter, actually got some offense in. That was probably it. The match itself was dire, but yeah, obviously from what Del was just saying there on Warrior, it was, about 3.5 years since we've last seen him. So it was, it's really nice to see him back. They've made a big deal about it. The crowd was super hot for his return and when he was getting his comeback. But the only thing that is in the back of my mind is where do they go from here? Because, they've been making a big deal about Hogan and Macho Man in these Billionaire Ted segments. Is what do they do with Ultimate Warrior now? Are they going to put him in the main event status? Because I think that'll, just like how I feel about Hogan, will get very boring very quickly, and I'll soon be switching off on anything Warrior related. Because the problem with Warrior in his last run, especially when he held the title, was he could never put a good match together. And if they're going to be doing the same again with him, I just can't see it coming good. In all honesty, especially they're meant to be coming in with this new phrase, the new generation, and they're bringing Warrior back, and as I said, that's my only concern. Well, I mean, to be fair, Piper is, I agree with that one, and especially when we saw the King of the Ring a few years back when he had the match with Jerry Lawler, it was like, what is going on here? But I'm going to give thumbs up on the Piper one, because I think he's slotted into a role that was left there by Razor, and that's the only reason he's gone into that role. Whereas Warrior, they look
Jake
like
Roberts.
Yeah. more. They just keep cropping them up. You're on fire tonight, Del, aren't you?
Answers
technically.
But well, on the Jay Roberts one, he's in an opener in a 6-man tag. They're in a roster that's lacking depth. Where, so that's not a concern on that sense. It's more the fact of Warrior coming in, and are they going to be pushing him as big as they did the last time he was on his run, and that's my only concern. I
think it's less the fact that these guys are on the show, and more the fact they're still more popular than 95% of the guys they've got on the full-time roster. That's probably a bigger issue. All a bit odd. We read comments about them trying to turn Hunter Hearst Helmsley into Ric Flair. I don't know that Ric Flair's losing a match against the Ultimate Warrior at any stage of his career in 2 minutes. I don't know that equally that a Ric Flair would lose any kind of match with Duke the Dumpster Druzy either, from the last couple of months. Yeah, all a bit bizarre. I mean, you could have really put anyone in this spot. You probably wouldn't even have to have announced Warrior's opponent. You could have just said he's going to have a match at WrestleMania. Could have been anybody you like. Just have him do his signature stuff, get in, get out, do the match. All a bit weird. Warrior kicking out of his finish is bizarre, really bizarre. Because it was more bizarre in a sense that the crowd were clearly very happy to see Warrior. So when Hunter hits the pedigree, they're kind of a bit like, oh, is he losing? And then it's not even like he kicks out, he just stood up and the crowd pops again.
It's not even the kicker, he never even got down to do the pin, man.
And then, he just goes to the finish. All very odd. I can't work any of this out.
Surprises here in the World Wrestling Federation, a wild night to say the least, but maybe even more wild. Ladies and gentlemen, a new superstar in the World Wrestling Federation. I'd like you to meet the Wild Man, Mark Morrow, ladies and gentlemen. He is in the World Wrestling Federation.
I have arrived. It's been 5 long years, and I've been waiting to come to the World Wrestling Federation. And today is the day that I have arrived. And what better day than on the Super Bowl of sports entertainment?
Well, let me ask you something, Wild Man. The quality that you're going to be facing, the Ultimate Warrior, the Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Bret the Hitman Hart, are you up to the challenge?
Look into these eyes. Look into these eyes. The fire that burns in these eyes. And the wildness that burns in my soul. What? Put an interview here.
Todd Pettengill is backstage and he introduces Johnny B. Bad. Well, there we go. That's a nice surprise. He's now going.
Richard.
He's now going by the moniker of Wildman Mark Mero. Mero starts cutting a promo. Hunter Hearst Helmsley interrupts them with the woman at his side who accompanied him to the match, and the two ended up brawling. The reason I bring up the woman who accompanied him to the match is that Dave Meltzer reckoned the woman was Mark Mero's wife. Quite why... Well, basically, in the sense that they're going to try and plug Mark Mero into the same program he was having with Johnny B. Bad against Darwin Dallas Page. Except the fact that, at least with Page, it was Page's actual wife, and now it's his wife. I don't know how that bit makes sense. Wayne, what do you think of, Mero, as we've now got to call him? I thought it was quite good.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a good way to bring him in. I was quite surprised to see him so soon. And obviously just the bat segment with Hunter Hearst Helmsley has got me excited to what's going to be next for the both of them. So I'm eagerly anticipating to see what kind of character they're gonna do with him. I know we're probably going to speak about it. So on volume 2, but just anticipating to see what route they go down with him.
Wildman Mark Mero?
It's, I don't know, as Wayne said, I think I'll leave it a wee bit just to see what the character is. I don't like that Vince is getting better at the guys that he's bringing in. We don't have the Goon, we don't have Mantor, we don't have Man Mountain Rock, but he's still got an element of this cartoonisation there. Whether it's Stone Cold and he's just looks stone cold, or if it's Wild Man Mark Mero, or Murrow, if you want to listen to Todd, and he's just got wild eyes. Is like, what is that at? Is that his gimmick? He's just going to come out and have ecstasy eyes. Is that the selling point?
That's Shawn Michaels' gimmick, isn't it, anyway?
Well, aye, to be fair, that's Ecky Eye Michaels. I don't know. I'll give it a couple of weeks. I don't want to make a snap judgment on it. He's got the talent. He's came on arguably as well as anybody in the world in the last couple of years. It does kind of put to bed the rumours that, well, the feelings that he might come in as just being kind of Bonnie B. Jad. So I mean, it's good that they've not just done a cartoon copy of that.
Bonnie B. Jad?
Well, I was thinking they just might change Johnny B. Bad's name, so Bonnie B. Jad, and then he would just come in with, I don't know, a water pistol instead of his confetti shooter. But I don't know. I'm going to put it in ice for a couple of weeks. If it means that he's going to be starting a bit with his wife looks alright, so that might be a seller for me, but I'll see where they go with it.
Yeah, a nice spot to introduce him here, and I think, at times we've seen, the kind of Mankind, aka Cactus Jack introduction, the long set of promos. Sometimes just have a guy show up and go, oh, hello. It's gonna help if you've got WCW fans that are tuning in just because of WrestleMania. I recognise that guy. That helps. And I think if you're a WCW fan, you're like, well, he's quite good. So I like that. I'm probably intrigued to see more. So I think from that sense, a thumbs up. Anyway, move on. It's Diesel against The Undertaker with Paul Bearer. After a marathon entrance, we start off at a pace. Excuse me. Undertaker goes for running elbow, but Diesel moves. Diesel sends him to the outside, but Taker starts going with some strikes. Undertaker hits a running crossbody for a 2. He then hits a neck breaker on the ropes by the apron. Back on the outside, Undertaker drives Diesel into the ring post and grabs a chair. He swings it, but Diesel ducks. Diesel picks Undertaker up and drives him into the ring post and then does it again. Back in the ring, Diesel hits a big boot, then a sidewalk slam. We get a double big boot and both men are down. Apparently Undertaker sitting up is enough to completely break the referee's 10 count. We get a long bear hug from Diesel. Undertaker goes to the top, just about reaches the distance across the ring for a flying clothesline, and Diesel kicks out 2. Diesel hits a jackknife on Undertaker, does a good job of it too. Diesel, impressed by his efforts, doesn't make the cover, instead just dismissively kicks Undertaker in the face. Hits another powerbomb, he then taunts Paul Bearer. Diesel finally goes for a cover, but Undertaker starts choking him. Undertaker fires off the ropes and hits a lovely flying clothesline. He hits a choke slam. Both men are down. He gets up, goes for a tombstone, hits it, and that will do that. Del.
We watch a lot of shit as part of this project, Bob, and I always try to be positive, but I don't know what's the matter with me in this paper. I don't know whether I am literally drinking the Kool-Aid, but I love this. Big man matches are not my cup of tea, ordinarily. I just thought these two done really good. There was a couple of bits in it. I did panic a wee bit when Diesel started the bear hug. I thought, oh no, we're going to have this for 5 minutes. The bit with the no cover on the back of the jackknife, not once but twice, was a bit, I don't know if I'm buying this. But they got away with it. And I don't know what it is. I just thought it was a really, really good big man match. And it's kind of weird when we've spoke about Taker before, when it's that kind of character when you can't really sell anything, you can't really react to anything, but he's still incredibly well liked by the crowd, and I think that's a testament to the guy that plays that character. But the two of these guys done really well. Diesel's been floundering for the last 18 months, especially after he lost the belt. Taker is still hands down best entrance in the company, but I think there is more to him than that. For two guys that aren't renowned as being athletic necessarily, or maybe acrobatic more the word, I just thought they'd done really well. It was just a big slug fight between two horses. I thought they'd done really well.
Why?
Yeah, Del said it all there. There's obviously Undertaker and Diesel, take a bow because that's probably the best big man match I've seen. It's probably the only good big man match these two have either had with some of the opponents they've had to face, especially with Diesel being on a face run as well. The match itself for the first 5 or 6 minutes was absolutely crazy. I loved it. It was so hot. And then the pace slowed down. Same with Del. As soon as the bear hug occurred, I thought, we've got another camel clutch with King Mabel and Diesel here, but unfortunately it didn't last as long, which was good, and obviously the story carried on and it played really well, and watching this and watching Diesel in his heel run, I'm a bit sad that he's going to WCW in all honesty, watching this one, because as I said, this heel run he's on, the chance that he could have had a better match with Shawn Michaels, and they could have rectified the mistake of last WrestleMania.
Yep.
It's just a shame that he's not going to be able to because he never really had a heel singles run, did he? He was always paired with Shawn, and then he come to the forefront and had his face turn, and it would have been nice to see the end result of this, and watch Diesel and Shawn Michaels in a match. But I'm with Del. Again, I really enjoyed this match, and I didn't think that I would have done from the start.
Yeah, I suspect part of the reason this match ended cleanly was that Diesel was off. I don't know how it would have ended had he not have handed his notice 3-4 weeks beforehand. I wasn't quite as high on this match as you, but I definitely watched this and went, this is the kind of thing we should have seen last year. Like, you're gonna do Diesel big man matches, just keep it on the feet. Even the rest hold was a standing bear hug. And you think that Undertaker and Bret Hart had this mat snoozer at the Royal Rumble. And it's like, just keep it on the feet. That's where both these guys are much more entertaining. I don't think it was a great match. Was it good? Yeah, probably, based on expectations. Equally, I think it probably helps quite a lot that, knowing what we know, I suspect that had Diesel been sticking around, had he have been the next program for Shawn Michaels, he probably would have won this match by an unclean finish, I would have thought. But given that he wasn't, we got the very kind of satisfying ending, and we got the kind of somewhat logical finish. I'm somewhat surprised Diesel was willing to have his hit 2 jackknives on Undertaker and have him kick out, or not even get the cover in the end. But yeah, a thumbs up from me, I think, in terms of they kept it on the feet. It wasn't too long. They did enough. And the finishing sequence was quite satisfying too. Yeah, I think, right to be positive on this one. Anyway, we rejoin the Goldust Piper chase. They get into the building. Piper runs into the building looking for Goldust. We pass Diesel walking to the back. We return to the R-Way and Piper emerges going after Goldust, forcing him towards the ring. Marlena's there also. Goldust is just flailing, punches and kicks. Goldust puts Piper in a pile driver position, then places both his arms on Piper's bottom. Piper escapes, but Goldust starts choking him with his tie. Goldust straddles him, then shapes to kiss him. Piper rallies. Goldust climbs to the top, but Piper manages to crotch him. Goldust then manages to kick Piper, which enrages him. Piper grabs Goldust by the bollocks, which pops the crowd up. He then drops a knee on the same region before starting spanking him. Piper rips off Goldust's wrestling suit, and he's wearing lingerie. Quite the sight. A second shot to the groin, and Goldust escapes to the back. Piper wins the match, if we can call it a match. Anyway, Del.
Oh, Goldust. Aside, obviously, for the fact that he gives fat lads something they kind of aspire to with the way he carried off his suspenders. I don't know what it is about this show, Bob. Folk are probably getting fed up listening to me. I love this. I think these two tell a brilliant story. There's almost what we kind of said there with Wayne, especially at the Diesel Taker match, where we're going to be sorry to see the back of Diesel. As much as I love Big Scott Hall, have done for still with a moustache, I was actually kind of glad that this has taken the direction that it has with the suspension to Razor, and seeing these two, I just thought they'd done brilliant. It it was ridiculous. For the start, kind of half an hour ago, 3/4 an hour ago, to kind of the full car chase thing that we'll come into, to just the end of this, and something that will come on to part 2 in WCW with the main event, and it almost like, how was this meant to end? This felt as if that was a natural end. The fact that there wasn't one. It's like Piper won that. There was no pinfall. There was no knockout. There was nothing but Piper won. And it's like, it made sense. It made sense for the story that they were telling. I think with part 2 that I alluded to, I think WCW were just trying to be too smart with theirs. This one just made sense. Goldust was on the run. He wanted to try and get into the head of Piper. There was times where you almost thought he had, but they just managed to tell a brilliant story. Piper get the upper hand. Goldust, being the good bad guy, just goes away with the tail between his legs, or I don't know where the tail was hiding with what he was showing, but I just thought it really made good sense. It is ridiculous as it was. I'm going to use the phrase again. It was ridiculous, but sublimely ridiculous.
Why?
Yeah, I think I'm supping the same Kool-Aid as Del, because I've loved everything about this. As I said, for such a short space that they've had for the build, I think it's been absolutely fantastic, so entertaining. Everything from start to finish, whether it was Goldust doing Piper's Pit, and then obviously the face-to-face they had in the ring, the promos leading up, Piper's been on point throughout, and then obviously we had this, we had part 1 of the brawl, and the funny cutbacks to obviously the aerial graphic of obviously the car chase, and then obviously the brawl that we had here. We've had an outside brawl, attempted manslaughter, car chase, homoerotic undertones, Goldust in lingerie. Everything has been just so entertaining about it. But I did come out with one question from it all, and that was, during the car chase, what went through Goldust's mind to think, I'm going to turn around and drive back to the arena?
Oh, where did
go and get Marlena?
Where did Marlena was already there? Where did the police go?
Well, yeah, exactly.
we can't, like, fuck knows
he gave
where,
them the slap.
Fuck knows where they found a helicopter from in about 8 minutes. But they got a helicopter up there for the car chase, and we see Piper in this big white car, and you pan out, we see 4 police cars just in formation chasing him down the highway. And 15 minutes later, they've 4 of them lost him. What happens? It's just this carnage, this corridor of carnage out around Anaheim. Police cars just in hedges and, overturned. But the police never arrived. What a crazy fucking match this was. I mean, you look at the crowd reactions, there's a good case of this being the most over thing on the show. It helped they were into Piper, but they were kind of into Goldust as well. Like when Piper rips off Goldust's gear, they pop for that. And they were into the whole thing. It didn't really make sense, but to be honest, who cares? It was a fun match, and Wayne, dare I say, probably better than Goldust and Razor.
Yeah, well, I think we could all agree that probably has been a blessing in disguise. We all love Scott Hall and the Razor character, and we've all sung our praises about him, that he should be higher up the card. But, I think it's, like I said, I think it has been a blessing in disguise that what has happened, because Piper has absolutely they both have, but Piper has been absolutely brilliant in this role.
We get comments from Shawn Michaels. He says everyone knows the story and now it's time for the final chapter. Bret says he just wants to wake up tomorrow with the WWF title. Gorilla Monsoon is officially back as the WWF president. And it's Shawn Michaels with Jose Lothario versus Bret Hart in an Ironman match for the WWF championship. Lothario walks out alone to Michaels' music. He gets in the ring and points to the rafters, and we light up Shawn Michaels, who's in this almost on the ceiling in the rafters. He then zip wires down to the crowd. That was really cool. The whole thing takes so long that Shawn's music ends up playing 3 times. Bret comes out to an almost definitely silent reaction.
Gentlemen, this match is for the World Wrestling Federation Championship. This is an Ironman match. You'll be wrestling for 60 minutes. Wow. The man who wins the most decisions will be declared the winner and the World Wrestling Federation champion.
Hitman's cool.
A decision can be earned by a pinfall, a submission, a count out, or a disqualification. You must break on the count of 4. I will disqualify you on the count of 5. If you leave the ring or if you're thrown out, you have a 10 count to return or you be counted out. Do you gentlemen both understand the rules?
Oh, the Hitman, ever
Are
confident.
there any questions?
No questions from either individual.
Good luck to both of you.
They've actually mic'd up the referee who explains the rules. The thing is slightly awkward, but actually adds to the enormity of the situation. Bret gives his sunglasses to his son Blade. Wayne, what do you think of this whole intro before we get into the match? I guess there's two things to discuss. One was probably the contrast in entrances, and secondly was Earl Hebner's kind of pre-match talk.
Yeah, I'm just touching on the pre-match talk. Goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about the videos of the two for the build-up. As I said, they're going at a different angle. It's giving it that big match feel. I can't fault them for it, in all honesty, because they're making it as the main event that it is, and they're going at it a slightly different angle. And I'm enjoying the change up of what they're doing with these main events. The entries themselves, I thought the one from Shawn Michaels was pretty cool. And Bret's entrance was probably a lot like his current title run, and that's underwhelming and overshadowed by the emergence of Shawn Michaels. I just want to make reference to Gorilla Monsoon. If he knew that he was going to be, and I know your response here, Bob, is going to be that I'm looking in WWF booking far too much, but the Gorilla Monsoon, if he knew he was going to be back to reinstated as the president, why did he not come out after the Stone Cold match and reverse the decision a la the Royal Rumble 2 months back?
I think we're going to be saying that for the next X number of years. I think we're going to have to forget about it, I think. Del.
If there was an end goal to this, Bob, and after kind of an hour's worth that we've got still to come, the end goal had to be to make Shawn Michaels look like a superstar. They'd done it before he even got into the ring. That entrance, I was a wee bit, where is this going when Jose walks out his cell? And it's like, oh, he's getting in it. Oh, shit, something like that. Shawn OD'd or something backstage. And God love him, the consummate star that he is. He's just up in the raft. He's up in the gods, really. The spotlight, the entrance, the fact that he's coming down into this clique, as he's calling it just made him a superstar. And as Wayne said, it almost showed Bret up for what he is, for it's like, you just look at the charisma vacuum that is Bret Hart. As much he is probably the best wrestler I will ever see in my life. It's maybe a bold claim. But it's when you match him up with the likes of Shawn, which we've seen in the video packages as well. Bret tries to be the good old school wrestler and he builds up his opponent, but Shawn just talks Shawn because nobody thinks Shawn's better than Shawn. And he just looked like a superstar, and I think they've done brilliant. The funniest thing for me about it was, as much as it gave it a big match feel, when you kind of see Buffer coming out in WCW kind of main event matches, it was brilliant to have the referee mic'd up as if you were seeing the Tyson Bruno fight that Vince was written on night. But the funniest thing for me was, this is the main event of the main show. The main event of the pre-show was highlighting the ridiculousness of Billionaire Ted, and you get Earl Hebner out there, God love him, talking about the World Wrestling Federation title. And it's like, the irony's certainly not lost in me.
Yeah, I found the pre-match introduction on the pre-show match quite funny, but it perhaps didn't work given that we had that 2 hours before and then this. But I thought Hebner, as much as his delivery was a little bit awkward, it really just sat in it just laid the stage for the enormity of the match. You don't get this kind of feel very often. And the minute where he said, if you don't break at the count of 4, I will disqualify you, I went, yeah, this is big time shit. That was Colin went, alright, you've laid this down properly. That was a big tick. The Shawn entrance was fantastic. I mean, that was, talk about takeaways from this show. That's the thing. That wide angle, they're going to be showing that for years. I've not got a doubt about that. As for Bret, I think it made sense that Bret's entrance was Mr. Serious. Well, the two ways looking at it. One, it made sense that Bret's entrance was serious, but that's a story they had to tell on commentary. They had to tell a story that Shawn's idea of this big match is this big show. And then they needed to ram it home on commentary. Maybe as it was happening, Bret is just coming down the aisle because he means business. They could have done that, or the second option would have been give Bret something equally as ridiculous. I don't know, give him a big band, or give him,
easiest way to tell it, Bob. Shawn Michaels here bringing the sizzle. Here's Bret Hart with a steak. Easiest way to tell it.
What, a barbecue? Oh, you mean like just Bret Mr. Serious?
Yeah, Shawn's up his eyes, Bret's here means business.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, that's what happened, but you watch it and you kind of go, well, this is a bit shit. And and you combine that with the complete lack of reaction he got, which, it happens. I think they did it right, but maybe that's a story you either tell at the time or you probably tell during the night. Say, I guess you don't want to blow the surprise, but say Shawn does an interview during the show with Todd Pettengill and says, I've got a big entrance plan to wow the fans and to, set the stage. And interview Bret later on, and Pettengill goes, what do you think about Shawn's big entrance plan? And he's like, I don't care what he's got planned. To me, it's about the 60 minutes bell the bell. That would have been the way of framing it. As it was, it kind of came across a bit shit. And they could have salvaged it. Again, they could have had Bret doing anything you like. You could have had Bret driving out there in a big car, maybe the one Piper had, I don't know. But it wouldn't have fit Bret. In many ways, they got it right, they just didn't present it correctly. Anyway. We start. Shawn starts with a throw. Bret rallies into a waistlock and Shawn escapes. Bret takes it down to the mat with a headlock. We get a graphic on the screen that says BH and SM on it. Lawler then explains what they stand for, which I thought was really good. The headlock is still going. Shawn rallies and escapes, but Bret takes him down into a headlock. Shawn escapes again, but Bret reapplies the lock again. This has been going for nearly 5 minutes and the crowd are pretty much silent. We escape. Michaels hits an arm drag and hits an arm bar. Lawler says that after the geriatric match earlier in the show, we can have a Jurassic Park match between Stu Hart and Jose Lothario. That's quite good. Bret hits some shoulder tackles in the corner. Shawn returns with some rights, which livens up the crowd. Shawn follows that with a head scissors to Bret, sending him under the top rope to the outside, and we're 10 minutes down. Bret throws Shawn over the top rope. Shawn does his rumble flip and takes Bret by surprise. He follows this by going back to the arm. Bret rallies out of it, slams Shawn onto his back, then goes for a sharpshooter. Shawn scurries for the ropes and Bret sends him to the outside. A portion of the crowd boo. Bret ends up sat with the timekeeper. Shawn goes for a super kick. Bret moves and the timekeeper eats a boot. That popped the crowd. Back in the ring, Bret goes for another chin lock. Bret levels Shawn with a clothesline, then goes right back to the chin lock. Michaels hits a drop kick, then goes right back to the arm submission. We're 20 minutes in. Bret rolls out into a headlock, but Michaels slides out of it and goes back for the arm. In the corner, Bret hits a couple of back elbows, then a pair of uppercuts. They leave the corner, but Michaels rams Bret's shoulders into the ring post. Michaels charges off of the ropes and drops to the mat with Bret's arm. This is the focus of Michaels' attack thus far. Bret manages to escape more holds by dropping Shawn onto the ropes. Bret follows that with a slingshot. Michaels then charges at Bret in the corner. Bret ducks and Bret starts kicking him while he lays across the turnbuckle. Bret does the bulldog. Even after all the submissions, his left arm seems fine. Bret goes to the top. Shawn follows him. Bret grabs a hold of Shawn's hair, jumps off the top and ends up taking out the ref on the way down. And at halfway, it's 0-0. Wayne, I'm going to say my voice for a minute. What do you think of the match so far?
I think you can tell that they're trying to push it out with it being an hour. I think that's the only thing we can say really. There's a lot of holes. They're doing well telling a story, but you just know that they're just pressing time and just waiting for the final 20 minutes of the full hour.
Joe,
I think the problem with the match so far is the lack of education in the audience. This is a 1990s wrestling crowd, and to take it even further, this is a 1990s WWF crowd.
Well, I mean, based on the reactions of Warrior, Piper and Roberts, this is a 1980s WWF crowd as well.
I would agree to that an extent, but it's a WWF crowd in general. I think if this was a 1980s wrestling crowd, and they'd watched Funk and Flair, they'd watched Steamboat and Flair, the undeniable athleticism in this match so far is brilliant, because there's not really been a slow spot. It's never really been the 100 mile an hour stuff. Understandably, in a 60-minute match, you wouldn't want it to be or expect it to be, but it's not really had a lull. I think the easiest way to get the crowd on board, and especially with the story that they want to tell, at least thus far in the match, is that these two are well matched and they're equals. You can easily do that with nothing, or you can easily do it with 2-2 or 3-3, which I think would have gave the crowd a bit of a lift and certainly got them on board. You get Shawn in a comeback spot, 1-0 down, he gets up to 2-1, then Bret pulls it back. It's an easy enough story to tell. The problem is, the crowd doesn't really know how to watch a 60-minute match. I've seen me go to shows before, you maybe get a Japanese guy on it, you even get a couple of Japanese guys on it, you watch Japanese wrestling different to you watch Western wrestling, and I just don't think the crowd's really in an ideal position to watch this. But as a match goes, and especially when you see half an hour go by with two of the best wrestlers in the world, if not the best, as much as there's probably a good element in that live crowd saying this is a bit underwhelming, I'm certainly on board with it, because the two guys can tell a story, and I think it's going to be a match that's looked back on. But as you say, we're only halfway through, so
you carry on. Shawn goes for a power slam. Bret kicks out at 2. Bret hits a pile driver. Shawn kicks out. Shawn goes for a Hurricane Rana. Michaels wants to line up the Sweet Chin Music. Bret ducks to the outside. The crowd boo. Shawn goes to the top, flings himself off to the tops to the outside, and a lovely wide-angle camera catches that perfectly as he takes out Bret. Bret threatens to be counted out, but Shawn actually breaks up the count. Interesting, we'll discuss that later on. Michaels hits a crossbody from the top. Bret rolls through for a 2. Shawn hits a perfect plex, another 2. The crowd do not seem to be at all enamoured by the sleeper hold. Bret flips Shawn over the top turnbuckle. The cameraman is so close to the turnbuckle on the outside that Shawn actually disappears in the shot, which is really good. The crowd pop for that as well, as it kind of feels like he kind of flips over the cameraman to the outside. Bret hits a slam and drops a leg. With 20 minutes left, Bret hits a belly to back from the second rope. Bret flings Shawn into the turnbuckle. Shawn flies over the top and levels Jose Lothario on the way over. Bret celebrates towards the crowd. He was happy with that one. Bret flings Shawn into the ring steps. Shawn nearly hits Lothario again. Bret hits a belly to belly for a 2. We're on the R way. Bret hits a suicide dive onto Shawn. Back in the ring, he goes for a German with a bridge for a 2. They start exchanging desperate right hands. Bret locks in a chin lock. Michaels rallies and we then get a double clothesline. We go to the top. Bret hits a superplex. Both men are spent. Bret tries for a sharpshooter, but Shawn fights out of it. Bret ends up going for a single leg Boston Crab. Some members of the crowd are booing again. 5 minutes left. Bret goes to drop a fist off the second rope, but Shawn gets a boot up. Shawn fries Bret hard into the turnbuckle. Both men go down. Shawn kips up with 3.5 minutes left. Shawn goes to the top, hits a double axe handle for a 2. Why not go for the super kick? I've got in my notes. Shawn hits a suplex, then goes for the top and hits a top rope elbow drop. Another 2, a gut wrench powerbomb. 2 minutes left, a moonsault, A near fall. Why isn't he going for the super kick? Shawn goes off the second rope onto Bret's shoulders. Shawn rolls it through into a pin, but Bret kicks out. 1 minute to go. Why isn't Shawn going for a super kick? Shawn climbs to the top, jumps off the top. Bret catches him and locks in the sharpshooter. 30 seconds to go. The crowd come alive. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The bell rings with Shawn still in submission. It's 0-0. The referee gives Bret the title. Bret starts to walk to the back. He gets halfway up the aisle as Gorilla Monsoon starts talking to the ref. Howard Finkel announces the match will continue under sudden death rules. Bret returns to the ring and starts having words with Gorilla Monsoon. He calls for the bell and goes after Shawn. Bret fires Shawn off of the ropes, then hits a back body drop. Bret fires Shawn into the corner. Shawn vaults the charge and then finally hits the super kick. Both men are spark out. Bret gets to his feet. Shawn hits a second super kick and wins the match. Bret walks to the back. Shawn looks at the belt in the ring on his knees. His celebration lasts so long, his entrance song loops another 3 times. Wayne?
Why didn't Shawn hit the super kick?
I don't know.
Sorry, it's just the amount of times that you mentioned it. It's just nice to know. If you know, Del was singing the praise, well, not singing the praises, but he was obviously having the argument that the crowd, you know, not educated enough on the, you know, to sit there through an hour's match, and maybe I'm one of them in all honesty, because I think this match, condense it, have a bit from the start of the storytelling and have the final 20 minutes of that hour. And, you know, I think we're probably looking at a match of the year, and if not match of the year, then definitely a match that would be talking about at the end of the year anyway. Now, you know, we can't blame Bret and Shawn for it. You know, they was given an hour's time and they did the best with it that they could, and they did. You know, they've had to stretch it out and everything like that. But, you know, you've got to understand that, you know, you can't be having non-stop action all the way from start to finish, and you do have to work smarter. So, you know, slow it down and tell a story, and I thought that they did really well on that. But, you know, it was agreeing with what Del said before. You know, we should have had a few falls during the match as a whole. That probably would have got the crowd off, onto the feet, etc. And it only seemed the crowd to come alive in the final 20, 15 minutes or so, and you know, cut it down from an hour to a half an hour, and you know, I think we could be looking at a 5-star match.
Del,
there's definitely a method to Wayne's madness there. I think I don't know whether it's a case that they missed their trick with this, but I don't know. It was a really good story that they told. I think they could certainly have done with some illustrations in the book, i.e. pinfalls, the kind of logic holes with the fall. Why does Shawn not just kill this off? Why would Bret not just put in a sharpshooter? Because if he gets him in the middle of the ring, it's all well and good trying to get to the ropes, but we've seen him do it before. They get to the ropes, he walks back into the middle of the ring. Shawn's got 60 minutes that he's got to put up with us. As much as that's maybe not going to make the best of the match, the right guy did win. I think it was a good match. I can see the point in it being a shorter match, not selling it as an Ironman when it's going to be 60 minutes, regardless if it's 50 falls each or if it's 0-0, it's going to be an hour long. I think if it was just a normal match, as much as these two guys could have a normal match, because it is going to be something special, the fact that it's been built into this does make it that bit more special when we've never seen this in a WWF arena before. We've never seen a 60-minute match, certainly on pay-per-view, certainly headlining, certainly with two guys I would like to think not even at their peak yet. I think that just makes it that bit more special. Did they live up to it? Probably not. Could anybody in the world live up to the build of this Ironman 60-minute title match, pay-per-view, WrestleMania every year. It's the biggest show that they've ever had, and understandably. But I think there's probably, with the exception of maybe like an Eddie Guerrero or a Benoit, who would never be in this kind of position, at least at this point in their career. There's no two other guys that could do this. The only thing that took a bit of a shine off it for me was seeing Shawn at the end, where it is Jose comes in, he's been built up in this kind of last wee while with kind of training Shawn up and being that corner man, and as soon as he gets in there, Shawn just gets him out the ring. Errol Hebner seems to have a bit more respect in Shawn's eyes when he kind of keeps him in, but the only reason he's still in the ring is to give Shawn the belt. As soon as he gets the belt, Errol's pushed out as well. Shawn just wants to live up the limelight. I can see it. If he's a baddie, he's meant to be the best guy in the world. At this point, it took a bit of a shine off it for me, just kind of seeing that attitude that you hear rumblings about backstage, kind of creep him onto the camera. But as I say, for an athletic contest, this was almost gladiatorial, where it was almost like a fight to the death. And I think that for what it was going to be going in, there's no two better guys in the world. Was it a bit underwhelming at points? Arguably, yeah. But I did love it, and I think it was a beautiful, beautiful story with two undeniable stars.
Where to start with this one? Sometimes you'll watch a movie that, like, a lot of people have raved about, and you know,
Citizen Kane.
It wasn't word association, Del, but alright, fair enough. and you'll just go, you know, in terms of like, you know, obviously we watch the same as everyone else does. It doesn't quite make sense given that, you know, I'm looking at reviews that kind of come in since. But you'll sometimes see movie reviews from critics and they'll go, oh, wasn't the acting so great? Wasn't it such a brilliant picture? And they're like admiring the stuff. And I go, yeah, but the story wasn't very good. And I kind of, you know, the match went far quicker than I imagined. I remember when we sat down with 60 minutes, I thought this is, you know, having sat through a lot of quite long matches, I thought 60 minutes is going to take a while. To their credit, it didn't feel like it ever dragged, but I think they got key decisions wrong. From having 60 minutes without a fall to not, you know, the whole thing going in was conditioning, and yet the first half of it was all rest holds. So weird. The whole thing was who's got superior conditioning, and yet they just spent the first half just killing the crowd. I think, you know, don't get me wrong, there is an audience that will appreciate this. Let's be clear about that. Maybe it's an ECW type crowd, maybe it's a WCW crowd from the 1980s. It wasn't this crowd. They sat him down, they slowed it right down, and I just got more and more angry at the story they were telling. And it didn't help that the story they were telling wasn't particularly being rammed home by the announcers. It didn't help that when Bret got Shawn in the sharpshooter with 30 seconds to go, the announcers hadn't spent the last 5-10 minutes telling people how, you know, Bret had worked Shawn's back for most of the match. But it ultimately didn't help that there just wasn't that much drama. The crowd flattened out about halfway through, I think, when they realised it was probably going to be 0-0. I got more and more angry, as you could tell in the notes, that Shawn just wasn't going for his big move. The one thing Bret said during the build was, Shawn's just this ordinary guy, but he's got this one big kick. Why didn't you use it? We had a match last year, Shawn Michaels versus Karma at King of the Ring. It went 15 minutes to a time limit draw. Shawn Michaels never attempted his super kick. And then after the match, Shawn just levels him with a super kick. Why didn't you do it during the match? I had that same feeling here. And the match kind of petered out, and as Wayne, I don't know that the overtime bit worked either, and I know that was where they ended up, and also you needed a winner, but I don't know that, yeah, we kind of discussed this when we talk about UFC. I don't know that the big long 60-minute match followed by the really short overtime helped anybody.
No, we said it all They should have explained that beforehand. They've explained everything else about the rules. We even had Earl Ebner mic'd up telling us that if he'll disqualify anyone after the count of 4, and they forget to mention this vital point of what happens if it is a draw. Any other draw, the title holder always walks away with the title. But for this match, the rules were different.
Dal, same question.
Going back to something that you said, actually, I don't think I could pick 2 better wrestlers to win this match, but something that you said about the commentary, it's not going to change the crowd in any way, but I think this would have been a very differently received match if it was a Gordon Soley, a Jim Ross, a Mike Tenay that was calling it. I think that would have made a big difference here, where you've got almost an insight, certainly more than you get with Vince and to a lesser extent King. If you had that kind of insight where if there is a crowd lull, or if there's a lull in the match, you fill in the gaps in colour, and they call it colour commentary for a reason. There's the play-by-play there that a Jim Ross or a Mike Tenay could do, and probably I would go with JR on the call, and then maybe Mike Tenay filling in a bit of colour, or even like a Jesse Ventura, Bobby the Brain. I know they're WCW now, but they needed something to fill in the gaps of this, and I think that's where it fell down a bit, especially when you're going with a 0-0 score. Personally, I was a lot higher on the match. I thought going in it was going to be a lot better, I'm not going to lie. But I still think they've done well. I think they were just very restricted with the story that they were getting told to tell with the 0-0, with the lack of a strong commentary team, the lack of an animated crowd. I don't know. I think it was almost as if it was a modern audience, where it's like they've been trained to pop for a Warrior, and then he comes out and he has a 90-second match and everybody's happy. They train for an Undertaker win. They train for a Hogan leg drop. It's like, it's almost like an instant gratification culture. And I just don't think it really worked in this stage. But for all the flaws that were there, I was still on board with it.
Let me present an alternative scenario for this match. And we can discuss in a minute whether it would be better or not being 60 minutes at all.
I do like a book it, Bob.
Yes. Shawn, I have 2 alternative theories for this. One was that Shawn goes up inside the first 90 seconds, hits Bret with a surprise super kick, pins him. Bret spends the next 58 minutes desperately trying to get back a fall and doesn't get there. Or number 2, we're about 50 minutes in the same 0-0 match. Shawn hits a super kick, finally, picks up the first fall. Bret spends the last 10 minutes trying desperately to pick up the fall, with Shawn in the sharpshooter save for the last 45 seconds, with Shawn clinging on to dear life at 1-0, clinging on to his championship. Del, would either of those have been an improvement on what we got?
I very much like the idea of the Shawn early super kicking a pinfall. The trouble that you've got with it is try to build Shawn as this ultimate underdog when he's in front. It's almost like when we've seen Diesel and his good guy run try to sell to kind of smaller guys and get a babyface shine. It's very difficult to tell. I can see where
could you not have had Shawn hits the early pinfall, and it doesn't have to be 90 seconds, it could really be at any point in the first half of the match, and then Bret just slowly getting more and more heel, because this is a crowd that really I think would have booed him if Bret really had given them the chance. And if Bret's going to go away for 6 months, does it really matter if he goes out being booed? He got booed at the Rumble, I don't think it really matters. And then, we just get Bret getting more and more desperate, trying more and more things, and Shawn looks like the heroic babyface. Does that not work?
I think it's the tightrope that you watch that I would trust a Bret with. I don't know whether I could trust a Shawn with. You see it a lot of times in wrestling where people disappear if they are getting booed. If Bret isn't coming back for 6 months, he'll come back and he'll be the king of that ring. It's the same as we've seen with Piper getting going into 8. It's the same as we've seen countless times with people disappearing, and folk don't remember the stories when they come back. They just remember the name and the music and the sight of seeing them. Bret would have an issue with that. I think that when you're not really getting a crowd conditioned for these kind of circumstances, the risk you run with that is, do they side with the guy chasing the win, be it a Bret, or do they side with Shawn when Bret just gets more and more pissed during the match that he can't catch up to Shawn, that they would side against Bret and thus for Shawn? It certainly wouldn't attain away for the match. I think it would, for the risk that it runs, it being better or worse, I think you're talking at least a 90% favourite, making the match a better visual for me. So I would probably agree with you, to be honest.
Why?
Yeah, I mean, the same as really. I think get the early fall in from Shawn. It's get Bret chasing him after that. It's certainly going to give a different dynamic on the match than what we watched. But I think you just cut out all discussion points if you just make it half an hour. I think just condensing it down would have been better booking.
I think it would have just been better as an ordinary match. Just don't set any expectations on the length. It felt weird when they set it up. It felt like, let's take this match that's probably going to be a classic and let's gimmick it to the point where it might not be. I mean, it's very, because reading a lot of the early reviews that come out this show, a lot of people were really desperate to love this match. There were a lot of people that said, well, it was nearly a 5-star match, but we knock off these couple of negatives and it wasn't. I'm like, just because it was Bret and Shawn and just because it was an hour long doesn't make it that level of match. That's why I come back to the movie review thing. There were some people that were just so blinded by the artistry and blinded by the setup that it was always going to be, they were always going to call it a very good match. I don't think it was. That all being said, I give credit to both guys involved in it. Given the match they set out to have, they did a very good job. The match went very quickly. It built nicely. I think they should have recognised a bit earlier that the rest holds weren't working, but you are going to go an hour, you are going to need some break points. It was just more, it needed a bit more drama. I don't think it had it. And it's more, I come back to the thing I said before, don't make your babyface look like an idiot. Shawn shaped for the super kick twice during the match. Both of them were around the half-hour mark. Why didn't he go back to it? If you keep missing, you're gonna hit eventually. And that was his big weapon. That was the thing Bret pointed out. Not a bad match by any shape or stretch, but too many structural things that they got wrong. And I don't know whether that's an agent thing. I don't know whether that's Bret and Shawn or what. I felt 60 minutes and then, a very anticlimactic finish, I thought. That's the thing, you want to crown Shawn as champion? Don't make me feel sorry for Bret that Bret should have walked off at the end of the match at 0-0 retaining his championship. And I kind of felt that a little bit. But anyway, we've done about half an hour on that match. I can understand why some people like it. The guys worked hard. They put on a very good match, but the story wasn't there. It was the well-acted movie that was well produced and shot very well that didn't have a great story. That's what it was. It's the kind of movie that critics are going to appreciate, but I don't know that your average fan is going to get behind because I don't think the story was good enough. And ultimately, with a bad story, this match is going to hit a ceiling fairly quickly. Anyway, Wayne, your overall thoughts on the show and a score rating out of 10.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good show from start to finish. We had a great 6-man. We had a really entertaining brawl between Goldust and Piper, and a few other matches in there. Couple of down points. We had a return of Warrior, so I'm going to give it a big 7.
Del.
I'm going to mirror Wayne, but I'm actually going to go one better. I'd say 8. The pre-show stuff I thought was brilliant. The Billionaire Ted blow off I really liked. The Return of the Warrior.
Can I be arsey and say we can't include the pre-show stuff in the overall score? I don't know whether that affects.
You can indeed, but as always, I'm well prepared, Bob, and for the positive that Billionaire Ted brought, it also loses the negative of the tag title tournament final, so it still balances out.
Well recovered.
But nah, it was really good. As I say, the first half of it was just lightning quick for me. I don't know what it was with this show. It just went quick. The Gold Dust Piper stuff on paper should never have worked. The 6-man tag as an opener when you see a division that is just absolutely bereft of talent. They shouldn't be able to put on a solid 6-man like that. They did. The Warrior match, for all its flaws, it was good to see Jim Hellwig getting his return to the spotlight. The Taker Diesel match, as I say, it's as good a big man match as I've seen in WWF for a good few years. The title match itself I thought was decent. It wasn't balls to the wall. It wasn't kind of all smoke and mirrors. They could certainly have done a better job of helping them tell that story. But overall, it's definitely up there with the best kind of shows that I've seen in a while, and I think it's a solid 8 out of 10.
I'll give it a 6. It's probably a better show than a 6. It's more the kind of decision making that knocks it down a bit. I think if you just want to sit down and watch a 2-hour 45-minute show, you'll probably enjoy it more than I did. You just look at all the context and you look at some of the decisions they made from, Austin and Vega. What an awful, either it was a really bad decision to the opening tag match, potentially, piling in, I don't know, maybe you can be overly critical of that. There was some fun stuff, but a lot of it was quite forgettable. I'm remembering Shawn and Bret because it was so long, not because it was such a good match. The rest of it, I don't know whether take it or leave it's fair enough. We've seen far worse shows, but equally I don't know that there's anything on here all that great. And I feel like they took some decisions here that were negatives. One from either booking the 60-minute match full stop, or 2, the way they booked it. 2, to having Hunter Hearst Helmsley lose a 2-minute squash to the Ultimate Warrior. And probably lacking a really good second match. It's tricky in the sense that I don't know that they left anybody off this card that really would have improved it. It's more of a testimony to where they're at right now. Good show, decent main event, but it's not a great show. I think when you look at some shows that we've scored 8, 8.5, 9s, and we haven't scored many shows that in the 2.5 years we've been doing this, it's not at that level. It's not at those level of shows. It's not that good. I feel like you could have made a few tweaks and made it better, but ultimately it's all about the main event, and as much as I can appreciate the main event, it frustrated me probably in equal measure. So yeah, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. We've got no real way of pivoting out of this because that was the end of the bump, so there's no audio to jam between it, there's no TV review to do. But we come out of 20 years ago mode into 2016 for a quick file discussion on a talking point that I kind of came up with while we were watching this show. Del, if Diesel doesn't hand in his notice at the beginning of March, does he beat Undertaker on this show?
Yes.
I think he does.
Absolutely no doubt about it. As soon as you come up with the talking point, the first thing that I said to you was yes, because it's the first actual challenge the Taker's had. He's fought Jake Roberts past his peak, and if you watch that match again, Jake is absolutely out his face. You watch him against King Kong Bundy at the year before's WrestleMania to this one, past his peak. Never a fan of him personally. Always just thought he looked like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in a singlet. Jimmy Killer Snooker, just past his peak again. Diesel's the first guy that Taker's really had a fight with that was genuinely challenging. The only thing I think that's lost that match for Nash at that point was the fact that he'd already signed to go to WCW.
Why?
Yeah, no, that's in agreement once again. The way that they've been building Diesel since his heel heel turn has been built really, really well. And going into this match, I couldn't see any other way about it as well. It would be interesting to see if they would have gone down that route, but I think we can all sit here and agree that it probably would have been the best decision for the way that they were building the Diesel character anyway.
Yeah, it's one of those forks in the road that, like, as much as the Undertaker's streak took on so much significance over the 20 years that followed, it's one of those forks in the road that wouldn't have really felt like what Undertaker still could have been a massive star. In fact, he probably still would have been. It would have just been a loss, and it wouldn't have mattered. And then, who knows? Undertaker's probably not around anymore. He's probably not facing Shane McMahon next weekend if Diesel sticks around. Because, don't get me wrong, I don't think Diesel wins this match cleanly, but just looking at the lay of the land, Diesel almost certainly would have won this match by nefarious methods on the basis that the big program coming out of WrestleMania, had he been sticking around, would have been Diesel and Shawn. Now, they did that match, but they did that match because Diesel had, some time running out, and it's like, well, let's pin him on the way out. I think if Diesel sticks around, he's their number one heel. And if he's their number one heel, he probably wins this match. It might be via DQ, it might be via outside interference, it might be, say, via a low blow or something like that, or by whatever. It's not like there's any number of different ways you could do this. But ultimately, I think he would have won the match, and work that out. Like imagine that. Like we've all grown up, or I have, you guys are a bit older than me, we've all kind of watched the last 20 years of stuff, and Undertaker has been the guy at WrestleMania off the basis of a streak that came into being, 2003, 2004 was when they started talking about it, and probably his match with Batista started this 6-7 year run of these just Undertaker matches that were marquee because it was Undertaker at WrestleMania and because he was undefeated. All of that goes away. It's a fascinating thought. It was just something that popped to mind when we were putting together this match. But it's like, that's different, and it's just a thought. As I say, like if Diesel stays and beats Undertaker, nobody really bats an eyelid. It's not like one of those big what ifs that's a massive fork in the road. It's not the kind of thing that people discussing the streak when they write about the match with Diesel necessarily bring up. It's not like this big moment of luck. It's just there. If Diesel had won, I don't think we would have been any the wiser. I don't think we would have sat discussing this in 20 years ago mode and gone, that was a bad decision. I think it would have been quite logical. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he'd have beaten him clean, but we would have gone, decent match. And dare I say, the other flip side of all this is that Diesel wins the match unclean. The match probably isn't as good. Part of the reason that match is so good is because of the way it ends. And if Diesel's sticking around, he wins the match by nefarious methods. That knocks a bit off that as well. Anyway, I thought they'd add that in. That's probably going to be an article I'll put up on the website in the next few weeks, kind of what if, and there's many more what ifs, but that's certainly one that came to mind. Anyway, I'd like to thank firstly Wayne Lythgoe. Thank you very much, Wayne.
Thanks very much, Bob.
Wayne, you can be found on Twitter.
On WareNell84.
Excellent. And Del Muir.
Thanks again, Bob. Nice to be back. And just for the listeners out there, you might want to get a notepad and a bit of paper and a pen for Bob's mass question in part 2 coming up.
Yeah, well, I probably could have done one as well, given that I ended up messing up the maths, but you got that to look.
I could have done with a calculator, but seeing we were in 20 years ago, Mod, you don't get them in phones.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, well, you get them on calculators though, couldn't you? Oh, whatever. Del, you can be found on Twitter.
Can indeed, Del_Muir.
Excellent. Well, you have got me, Del, and Wayne to look forward to in Volume 2 for WCW. We cover Uncensored. What a show that is. Volume 3 is ECW Big Ass Extreme Bash. That's not a bad show either. Like, sweary New Jack is a hell of a lot of fun. We get the end of Cactus Jack, the debut of a certain Chris Jericho, amongst other things, and all of that. So 3 very interesting volumes. So, 2 for you to look forward to if you got all the way to the end of this one. Anyway, I have been Bob Bamber. You can find me on Twitter at Bobby Bamber. You can find everything everything podcast related on the Wrestling20YRS.com website. If you're on iTunes, subscribe, leave us a rating and a review, and that will do that. I've been Bob Bamber. This has been Volume 1 of the March 1996 edition of the Wrestling 20 Years Ago podcast, and until next time, goodbye.